GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
You'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday morning, 3rd of June, and the time is 6 o'clock. You're watching Breakfast with Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Thanks for your company. Leading the programme this morning, the Prince of Wales is leading tributes to rugby league legend Rob Burrow following his death, aged 41 yesterday. He'd had a 5-year battle with motor neurone disease.
The Prime Minister is in the southeast of England today as he's set to announce the Conservative manifesto, which will alter the Equality Act to protect women's spaces.
Today, Sir Keir Starmer will turn his focus to national security, committing to the nuclear deterrent triple lock.
We'll continue our series of D-Day veterans in the run-up to the 80th anniversary of the historic landings on Thursday. Today, Will Hollis speaks to 99-year-old veteran Mervyn Kirsch.
And local residents in Bath are fighting the council over the rise of unruly seagulls. We want to hear your seagull stories.
And in the sport, Real Madrid celebrated winning another Champions League title by going and getting the world's best footballer to join them. Tennis players have complained about late finishes, and Novak Djokovic's match ended at 3:07 a.m. at the French Open. And Jose Mourinho, well, he's back and tells Fenerbahce fans, "This shirt is my skin," as he takes over as manager.
Good morning. We saw a fine weekend for many with plenty of sunshine around, but we are seeing more in the way of cloud developing from the north as we head through the day today, even bringing some practically raining places. I'll have all the details later.
Now, amongst the things we're going to be talking about today, and you're very inspirational to me on this, women's spaces. I mean, you're a good feminist and you recognise sensible things. But what is a woman's space, so to speak?
Well, prisons. Female prisons, which have obviously
hospital wards.
Exactly, hospital wards, or even toilets within schools, whether or not they should be entirely, you know, gender neutral or not.
Changing rooms at the gym,
at the gym, workplaces.
So what's your own view if you were put in a situation where that space was compromised? What would you feel?
I think that we've worked really hard to get where we are as women. I think, you know, still a long way to go in terms of equality in some ways, and this has been a massive backward step in recent months and years. And I'm all for people feeling safe and having their own protected spaces, but not at the expense of women's rights. So that's my own.
So if it is a man saying he is a woman, I mean, do you believe in?
I'm not questioning what they believe, and they're entitled to their own views. I do believe that sex is a biological fact, and you can't say you're a woman just because you feel that you're a woman, but you're entitled to think that. But please don't come into my female-only space. Probably would be my.
So you think?
Gosh, put me on the spot here, Eamonn.
No, but you think penis privilege plays a role? You think there is?
Well, I definitely think, and this is certainly the view that the government are taking today, that predators have been exploiting gender laws. Yeah. I think there is a problem with that.
Right, so we just put it out there because we want to hear from you today. We want you to talk about this because this is going to be part of the Conservative manifesto, which always gets me. It's part of the manifesto. Why weren't they doing it?
Well, good
beforehand?
point, and that's exactly what we're going to be asking Kemi Badenoch when she comes on. She is the Equalities Minister.
What time's she on at?
Just after 9 o'clock this morning. This has been her big thing. To be fair to her, she's been talking about this for a long time. But could they have done more? You know, why has it got to the stage where just a few weeks before the election the law is going to change, as you say?
Oh, yeah.
Wonder why.
But, you know, and then you'll never hear about it again. No matter what they say, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and then they'll do nothing, absolutely nothing. I think we've got to call all these politicians out, all of them. They're all full of it. Anyway, the time is 4 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock, and sad news to begin with.
Yes, that's right. The former England Rugby League international, Rob Burrow, died at the age of 41 after battling motor neurone disease for 5 years. He was on one of the sport's most successful players of all time.
Well, this is an awful condition for anyone who suffers with it, and his family say he will continue to inspire us all every day. He raised millions of pounds for motor neurone disease. And in a personally signed message on social media, the Prince of Wales paid tribute to Rob, describing him as a legend who had a huge heart. Let's go back to Paul, who, from a sporting's perspective, will tell us all about this and what sort of man he was. Very sad loss. And what will his legacy be, Paul?
Oh, huge. As a rugby player, because people forget, I say forget, I don't want to say forget, but what an amazing athlete he was. Everybody knows about the illness and what's happened afterwards. And Kevin Sinfield, his great friend who has run marathons and raised loads of money for him. And you remember carrying Rob over the line. That was at the Leeds Marathon last year. But as a rugby player himself, I don't know whether you know that he was only 5'4". He was a real pocket rocket. I mean, we talk about Doddy Weir, who also suffered from M&D. I mean, he was a huge man, whereas you've got Rob, who was just 5'4", and for the size of him to actually play in rugby league, but it was his speed.
Yeah, that was his asset, really. It made him nippy.
Incredibly quick. Played over 500 games for Leeds Rhinos, along with Kevin.
Are they connecting the game with the condition?
It's funny, I was thinking the same thing. It's not like there's a huge amount when it comes to M&D, when it comes to rugby. There's been this situation with Alzheimer's, which has been linked to other brain diseases, which is, I'm no doctor, I'm not going to be able to tell you this, no, but when it comes to
football heading the ball in soccer, there's a big theory that the two are connected.
It wouldn't be a surprise, would it? If you think, and also when we get to players nowadays, especially when they playing rugby and also rugby union and rugby league, compared to as it was before, it's so much more physical. You have to be, it's so much harder, they're so much fitter, and they're being hit harder and quicker and more constantly as well. So, I don't know what the situation is when it comes to M&D compared to the actual game, whether that is a link, but it wouldn't surprise you. But 8 Super League championships, 2 Challenge Cups, and it was 2001 from 2017 he had his actual career. But it wasn't until 2 years afterwards that then he announced that he'd had motor neuron disease and actually played in a testimonial as well. This is after he announced it. So at that point, it was only his voice that had gone. And you could hear that he was struggling with his voice. But then, as we know, with being this just awful disease, then things follow then after that.
But even as he was deteriorating, he was making waves in terms of raising huge amounts of money in the same way that he had done on the pitch. He was an impressive character there. He channeled all remaining energy that he did have into raising millions. And this friendship race that he created, and this beautiful friendship that we all saw with his friend carrying him over the finishing line up in Leeds, captured the nation's heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were great friends, and they played together for years. And Kevin Sinfield, I mean, there's a quote from Kevin, and this is what he said. Today was the day that I hoped would never come. The world has lost a great man, a friend to many. You fought so bravely until the end and became a beacon of hope and inspiration, not only for the M&D community, but all those that saw and heard your story.
So young, you, at the end.
41 years old.
But as you say, let's not forget what an amazing player there he was a career that was 17 years long. He won 8 Super League titles as well, but above and beyond, and will be sadly missed. And our condolences to his family.
Yeah, 2 little girls as well, 2 daughters.
There was I just want to mention, he did so many different things, and you see how many awards and different speeches, and he had this amazing system, you know, where he could blink looking at different words, and then it was his voice that you would hear. And he did a bedtime story for CBeebies, which was one of the things that I saw yesterday, which of everything that I've seen and everything that I've read about and everything that I've seen of him over the years, that was the one that I found more poignant than anything else, because he had children himself, he had young kids, and he did a bedtime story, and he said a few words beforehand, and he said, you know, that people say that I've been brave, you know, what I've had to go through.
Stop.
And for children, you know, here's a story about being brave and how important it was, you know, just seeing that. And anybody with children, and for any father to see, and it just really brought a lump to the throat. And it's amazing that it's something like that, of everything that I've seen, that was the one that affected me the most.
I'm sure his daughters are being really brave as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks. We'll talk more sport in 10 minutes' time, and we'll talk more about Rob Burrows throughout the programme this morning. Thank you. Your tributes, memories, legacy for M&D. If you're suffering from it, you know someone is suffering from it, you've got something to say about it, we'd like to hear from you this morning.
Right, on to the election now. The countdown continuing to the big day, and the Prime Minister is set to travel to the South East as he's pledging to amend the Equality Act to protect women's spaces.
Let's face it, it's all boring. They're all boring.
Amen.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is not relevant politics.
This is culture wars, and they think that this is a really great topic to create a dividing line with Labour, because let's be honest, there isn't much wiggle room on the economy, there isn't much money to play with. Where are they really different on this issue? Because Labour has really floundered on this. They struggled to define what a woman was, and they've been even slower.
Let's bear this in mind, politics. What I hate about news programmes is news programmes have now become like adverts for the political parties. So they're saying, here's a political party, and this is what they're saying today, and this is da-da-da-da. It's not our business to be relaying all their nonsense, stuff that they'll never promise, they will never live up to, or whatever. I think we should point out a lot of the hypocrisy and the boredom of all of this. Sir Keir Starmer, he will focus on national security. You know, all else fails, let's talk about the nuclear deterrent. Yeah, that'll get them every time. And what has ever done about the nuclear deterrent?
Well, let's not forget that 5 years ago he was in a cabinet under Jeremy Corbyn who wanted to get rid of nuclear. So, you know, can people trust him on that?
But the thing about it is,
well, with Labour this morning,
you can't trust him on it, because nobody would do anything about it. Who in the present world, what's going on in the world, would actually say, do you know, it's a good idea, let's get rid of our nuclear subs?
We've had people on this very desk saying that, haven't
they're stupid people. Well, why are you giving them airtime? They're stupid people.
It's to be debated, but we will discuss all of that with Labour. But before we get
we'll leave it all to Iran. Let Iran have all the nuclear weapons, and Russia and China, but we'll not bother. What a stupid argument.
Some people think that. Listen, before we get into all of that, because I know Eamonn's chomping at the bit, we're going to take a look back on what the leaders have been up to over the weekend.
Oh, fantastic. Ice cream.
It's great to be here for the launch of the bus, Angela's bus. And it's rather like Tory defectors. You wait for ages and then 3 come along in a row. But this one, Ange, I'm reliably told, has got a fridge in the back of it. So check that Boris Johnson isn't in there. He used to be around these parts.
Is that he doesn't stick by anything he says, just constantly changes his mind. And it's clear that Angela Rayner is in charge of the Labour Party and not him at the end of the day. And if he's given in to her and the left on that, imagine what he'll give in to when it comes to higher taxes, the union's demands, or weakening our defence and security.
Let me make this commitment to the people of Scotland. I'm here to serve you all. I'm here to work hard to win your trust and your confidence. I am here to give everything I have to secure the best future for our country.
Tories are on their way out. That's a clear message. But Labour's taking Wales for granted is something that I'm hearing on doorsteps in every part of Wales. So it's Plaid Cymru that's able to say, no, there is another place for you to put your vote that can keep the Tories out, keep Labour in check, and that's Plaid Cymru that will always stand up for Wales.
What Reform have to do is to say to people who agree with our policies, come out and vote for us.
I remember about what they said over the weekend, or what they did was Sunak licking a 99.
Stop it.
Sorry, I'm not going to stop it. I'm not going to stop it. Sorry.
That's all you remember.
What was Sunak doing?
We'll come to you in one second, my lovely. We haven't introduced you yet. Celebrating in the wings.
Ice cream.
Oh, right.
Ice cream. That's who was doing. That was...
Is this for me?
And Fred de Fossard joins us now to talk about all these things. But Isabel, sorry, I'm not going to give up on this, and I'm not going to be treated like a moron. That Sunak comes out with an ice cream, and we're also going to say, what a jolly, lovely, fantastic man he is. Now, the main thing is, let's talk about the nuclear deterrent first of all. Okay. Stella, so what's Starmer going to do? What's he going to fiddle about with a nuclear deterrent in a world that's about to blow up everywhere? Why would we even threaten the nuclear deterrent?
Yes. So what Starmer will want to say today is, look, we are no longer the party of protest. We are now the party of national security. The Tories have let you down even on their bread and butter issues. They have missed the recruitment targets. They have not increased spending on the military. And he will come out and say, look, military spending is going to go up to 2.5%. And you will see none of that hostility towards Trident and towards NATO that you saw with Jeremy Corbyn. So don't worry about it. Conservative voters, feel free to come to us, to the Labour Party.
And then, Fred, what's wrong with that? That will win a vote, so that will make people say, oh, well, that's good, they're not as mad as they used to be.
I think this is about Starmer's reasonably sensible strategy of reducing risk in the campaign. Obviously, he's been trying to purge left-wing candidates, tack to the right on policy. But if you think about pledges to increase defence spending right now, it kind of flies in the face of his and Rachel Reeves' lots of economic and fiscal policies, where they want the OBR to dictate every one of their spending plans. So if there's where they're going to get the money to increase defence spending, well, they've also pledged not to increase tax rises and not to increase taxes and not go crazy on spending splurges. Where is it?
They get the money from all the same source, private schools.
Oh, yeah.
All you ever hear, how are you going to pay for this? And they say, oh, they tax on private schools. So I don't know how far this tax on private schools is going to go, but it's going to pay for everything.
Yeah, precisely. Tax on private schools, the non-dom loopholes or something, those things have been giving and giving and giving. And I don't know, it's incumbent on the Conservative Party to point out that maybe this isn't very plausible.
Although Stella, saying that they're going to increase spending when the economic opportunity arises or the conditions are right, what if those economic conditions never arise for all of the reasons that we've discussed and the world becomes increasingly dangerous? As Eamonn says, do they take us for fools in thinking that we don't understand that? And I go back to the point I made originally about Sir Keir Starmer. You know, he's trying to be no drama Starmer these days, but the truth is nobody will forget that he stood shoulder to shoulder with Jeremy Corbyn just 5 years ago, who wanted rid of Trident altogether.
I think personal poll ratings will show you that a lot of people have forgiven him already, because they don't seem to budge. His poll ratings do not seem to budge for the last 10 days. What I would say, you have a very good question about spending. And what Labour will say, of course, is, look, this is also going to, these new announcements, they will also create jobs because they want to construct these new submarines and all of that. So they will say this is where the growth will come from. But at the same time, you're looking at Rishi Sunak over the last 12 weeks and all of the 12 days, sorry. And he has said he's going to give 20 million to 30 towns, most of which have Conservative MPs. He's announced the national service. He's announced tax cuts for pensioners. How is he going to fund all of that? Obviously, he doesn't expect to be in government. But the Labour Party say, wait a minute, he keeps on going on about all of these. This magic money to basically...
It was clamping down on tax avoidance was his answer to that. Fred, we want to talk to you as well about this big topic for the Tories, this culture war. Kemi Badenoch is going to be on the show later, talking about sex not being something you can choose, but a biological fact. And I suppose the harder angle to all of this is, you know, protecting women from predators who've been exploiting those gender laws. Eamonn's point, why have they left it till now to change the law to toughen up on this?
That's a great question. I was listening to you discuss this before we came on, and I agree with the thrust of the question. Reforming or possibly repealing the Equality Act has been kicking around an area of discussion for a long time in Conservative circles. Many people will be wondering why it hasn't been done now. I was actually calling for similar kind of measures on reform to the Equality Act, particularly the very pernicious public sector equality duty, for papers I've written recently, for quite some time. Trust is quite low. One thing I do worry about is the policy blitz is not really landing, but the politics of this might be helpful if the Conservative Party is able to get some quite, let's say, painful responses out of Labour. The Labour Party has reduced some of its division on this, but not entirely. The Conservatives know that Keir Starmer has a very divided party on this issue, and if possible, it could lead to some interesting responses in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But let's
Fred,
see.
do you not think the Conservatives need to give up this "we are the sensible party" issue? Because what are they worrying about? They're going to be hammered. They've nothing to lose. Why don't they just promise to spend money?
That is very difficult for this current Conservative Party leader, who actually has a very similar line on the respect for things like the OBR, the Bank of England, that Rachel Reeves does. Obviously, Rachel Reeves wants to put the OBR on even greater statutory footing, reducing political and democratic decision-making when it comes to spending. But it's very, very hard, considering the context in which Rishi Sunak was elected, for that to be credible, I think. But I understand the point of your question. Why not just go hell for leather in an election campaign? I think instead of going hell for leather on policy, they need to be a much more precise and aggressive on Starmer and particularly Rachel Reeves's plan to remind the public that they actually can't trust them with the public finances or their own assets or their own wealth.
Interesting, but the polls just don't seem to be buying it. And over the weekend, we heard talk of only 66 seats for the Tories after the election. And if that happens, you have to ask, what on earth was wrong with Sunak, who managed to do national insurance cuts, boost defence, bring out the culture wars and all those arguments, and still no change in the polls?
Yeah, I think it's a very fair point. I think, obviously, when one party's been in government for a long time in this country, you get a certain level of voter fatigue, which is hard to reverse in a general election campaign. But also, fundamentally, the Conservatives' two biggest promises in office, not just the last 5 years, but 4, are cut taxes and cut immigration. And over the course of the last few years, both have gone up. It's very, very hard to row back from that.
Stella, it's been very interesting listening to Fred, but we had to talk to him in length because your microphone isn't working. Is it working now? No, it's not working now. So, but anyway, you were very good anyway, so far. Guys, thank you very much indeed. Come back and see us again after 7 o'clock and we'll talk some more. So thank you both very much indeed. Other stories coming into the newsroom on this Monday morning.
Landmark research has found that more under 50s than ever are getting cancer as rates are soaring in the young. Adults aged 25 to 50 have increased in terms of catching the disease by 24% since the 1990s, with cases now rising twice as fast than in the elderly. Experts are putting the rise down to changes in diet and the increase in ultra-processed foods.
Then why is it allowed to happen? Now, that's real politics if someone took care of ultra-processed foods, but they'll not. Luxury cruise line Cunard is officially naming a new ship, the Queen Anne, in Liverpool later today. It'll sail into the Mersey at 7 a.m. The naming ceremony to take place this afternoon. Andrea Bocelli will top the bill of performances with Emma and Matt Willis hosting the ceremony. We could have done that. We'd have hosted it. Whatever they were doing it for, we would have done it for less.
Take a look at the Telegraph this morning. Media mogul Rupert Murdoch featuring on it with his new bride. He has married for the 5th time at 93 years old, tying the knot with the retired Russian biologist Elena Zhukova at his Californian vineyard. The photos show Murdoch in a black suit with a yellow tie, beaming alongside his 67-year-old bride. Look her dress. I have to say, I really love her wedding dress. I think that's really unusual, really classy. I don't really understand, we were talking about this before we came on air this morning, why he wants to marry at 93, a fifth time. You know, good luck to them. Maybe he thinks he's finally cracked it.
He might be just the eternal romantic.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, exactly. But look at that dress. So stunning. Really
I think that's a blue suit, not black.
Yeah, I think that's navy. I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, well, it looks black there. Anyway, but you're right, very elegant, very nice.
Very elegant.
Dress, indeed. Right, Thursday, 80th anniversary of D-Day, and what we're doing is we're sharing the stories of the people who risked their lives for Britain's freedom. 99-year-old Mervyn Kirsch served in the Royal Army Service Corps. He landed on Gold Beach 4 days after the main assault. He volunteered for a reconnaissance mission after an advance party returned with only one survivor.
Well, GB News' Will Hollis has been doing some fantastic reports with lots of veterans, and he spoke to Mervyn at the Union Jack Club in London.
I didn't feel scared. I thought it was a great adventure.
Mervyn Kirsch was a boy when the war began. By D-Day, he was trained and ready to fight after years waiting.
It was taking a long time. I suppose I was an agitator.
He remembers reality unfolding to the sound of thumping guns.
In the morning, about 5 o'clock, they woke me up to say we were going towards France now, and I could see the outline in the dawn. And I could hear couldn't see, but I could hear the shells, big shells going overhead both ways. Nobody was bothering to fire at me, which was quite good. Then I began to feel nervous, and I realised it's not just an adventure, it's actual world war.
Mervyn served in the Ordnance Regiment. His job was to get supplies like ammunition and vehicles onto the beach. When an advance party, including some of his friends, were destroyed, Mervyn stepped up.
The head of me went to a reconnaissance unit. We were supposed to go on D+6. The reconnaissance unit was going D+2 to find a suitable site for 200 drivers and 1,000 vehicles, which we were going to stock, all kinds. They went across, but they didn't get across. They were torpedoes, the only boat torpedo that day. And they were all blown to pieces. None of them were. Just the boss, my CO, Colonel Gore, survived. He was on deck and he got thrown into the sea. So he came back and asked the volunteers to take their place. And I was apparently the only one. I didn't realise I was the only one who volunteered.
Under the cover of darkness, he landed in Normandy.
So I was put on a boat that night, any boat, going across, and told to find a suitable site for vehicles and men. So I just crossed over and I landed, got to the top of the cliff and just, with a strange driver in a track vehicle, told him just to drive down one of the roads and see what we can find.
He returns to Normandy for the 80th anniversary. Will Hollis, GB News.
Your D-Day memories all recounted, D-Day remembered, and you get in touch with us, gbnews.com/your say as we build up to Thursday. Now, if you think of Bath, you may think of period dramas, beautiful Georgian houses, Roman baths, and a genteel way of life.
But you ask the residents of this beautiful Somerset city and they'll tell you that they are being terrorised in their sleep and plagued at every waking moment.
In their sleep, in their sleep. So what we decided to do was to send our South West of England reporter, Jeff Moody, to find out what is causing this problem.
They're lurking on the rooftops, waiting to pounce. Hungry, destructive, dirty, and very loud. Writer and historian Tim Newark has had enough of his new neighbours.
But they're the very worst neighbours you can get. They wake us up at 4 a.m. in the morning and disturb our sleep. They rip open so-called gull-proof bags and strew that rubbish all over the pavement. They deposit vast amounts of disease-laden faeces on our streets, on our buildings, on our cars, everything.
But the new neighbours are of the feathered variety, seagulls, thousands of them coming in from the sea and claiming the streets of Bath for themselves.
If people acted like that, the council would do something about it. But the girls, they feel they can't touch them because of Natural England's very strict rules that stop us from even touching nests. So the council feels their hands are tied, but it's the residents who have to put up with this. And I don't see why we should have to live with girls. No one voted for that.
But they did vote for the council. In a statement, the council's cabinet member for neighbourhood services said, "We know that urban gulls can become a nuisance and even cause distress for people in some instances. However, we are limited in how much we can do to solve this because it is illegal to interfere with the birds or their nests. We urge residents and businesses who are experiencing problems with gulls to ensure they aren't making their roofs and gardens an attractive target by removing outdoor waste wherever possible." Impossible, though, on bin day. A census of the UK's main seafowl species says seagulls have seen a drop in their population since 2002. There's 100,000 fewer gulls than there were at the millennium. That's a fall of 41%, and that's why they're protected. But Tim Newark says this is wrong.
I would like Natural England to get sensible and see that it's not possible for residents, city centre residents, to live next to gulls, and we must be able to control their numbers. We must be able to get rid of their nests, and we can't have these incredibly strict rules that are stopping councils from acting for us.
Bath and East Somerset Council have applied to Natural England for a licence to destroy nests, but they're unlikely to succeed unless they can prove that people are being physically attacked. Until then, Bath's noisy neighbours are here to stay. Jeff Moody, GB News.
It isn't just Bath either that's terrorised by them. I mean, I lived in Bristol for years. It was awful. But anywhere really close to the coast, if you're watching us this morning and you too get woken up at 4 in the morning by the noisy baby seagulls.
It's nothing to do with being close to the coast. Seagulls are inner city.
No, well, Bath obviously
animals.
isn't close to the sea, but I mean, they usually come in fairly close to the sea. Bath isn't that far.
They come in everywhere. They're a plague everywhere, and this nonsense to say that they're dying out. They're pests.
Yeah, they're a nightmare.
You have to be able to control them. The fact is, of course, we have a lot of responsibility with this because, councils, since they're allowed to have plastic bags to dispose waste, what an inconvenience that is, because that's rats, mice, foxes, seagulls, all because of plastic bags, and somebody has to clear it all up when it goes everywhere. But I mean, people would need. There's nothing likeable about a seagull.
They're not. Well, they are beautiful from a distance. They are exquisitely beautiful. If you think that how pristinely white their feathers are in all the. You
could say rats are beautiful.
You could, yeah. But I do think seagulls are beautiful, but they're an absolute menace, and I loathe them, having lived and been tortured by them. So let us know. Send us your stories. I would try to control them. A controlled population is reasonable, I think.
That's killing them.
Yeah, cull.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let us know your woes, your seagull woes this morning. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Marco Patanga now with the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw plenty of fine weather across the bulk of the UK through the weekend, but things are turning more changeable during the week ahead. Most of us are seeing some rain at times, but equally, still some warm sunshine to look forward to too at times. Back to the detail for this morning, though, and outbreaks of rain affecting Northern Ireland, South West Scotland, moving south into parts of Northern England as we head through the day. Most of that fairly light and patchy, but the odd heavy burst in places. To the south of that, much brighter, particularly across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, but generally a cloudier day across the south of the UK than during the weekend. The best of the sunshine generally reserved for parts of Scotland, although towards the far north, quite a few blustery showers around. Still quite warm though when the sun does come through, temperatures into the low 20s at best. As we head into the latter stage of the day, into the early part of the evening, quite a bit of cloud across the south of the UK, generally the best of the brightness across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, and temperatures still doing quite well in that sunshine into the high teens, locally even still 20 degrees in one or two spots. Notice how across Northern England, parts of Northern Ireland, the cloud thick enough to give 1 or 2 spots of rain in places, and the best of the sunshine still reserved for parts of central Scotland, with blustery showers packing in there towards the Northern Isles. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period, those outbreaks of rain across the central slice of the UK continue to journey southwards but tend to break up, leaving a legacy of a fair bit of cloud across much of England and Wales into the overnight period. And although there'll be clear spells towards the north and northwest for a time, notice as we head towards Tuesday morning, further outbreaks of rain moving in across the northwest of the UK, and some of those turning heavy in places by Tuesday morning itself. Quite a mild night with all the cloud around, but notice as we head into Tuesday, quite an unsettled day unfolding. Those outbreaks of rain towards the northwest starting to slit their way southeastwards towards England and Wales as we head into the latter stages of Tuesday. 1 or 2 heavy bursts in places. The far south and southeast holding on to some sunshine and brighter skies, but with blustery showers packing in across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and generally a cooler day than in recent days, peaking at 21 Celsius in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, it's officially summer if yesterday's anything to go by. Anyway, finally the sun put in a showing after some dodgy weather. But we have a brand new summer giveaway for you. £15,000 in cash to make this summer spectacular.
Wowza. Yes. And then there's an iPhone, there's AirPods, there's £500 to spend at an attraction of your choice in the country. So if you would like theme parks, visiting stately homes, a spa day, anything like that, it all could be yours. Here's what you've got to do.
It's the Great British Summer Giveaway, and have we got a prize for you? There's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For a chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Luck indeed.
A lot about Real Madrid and a lot about Jose Mourinho after this.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel. This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides
as you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews.
What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides.
As you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's election channel.
Let's get into what's been happening with the sports news. And there we are, the front page of The Sun, reflecting Saturday night's Champions League. And it is, what's his name, Jude Bellingham and his mum. His very attractive mum, Paul.
Yes. Well, if you think, you know, she's going to be young because Jude Bellingham's only 20 years old. Yeah. So, anyway, she
quite liked Jose Mourinho. That's why he was introducing her to Jose.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah, we're going to mention Jose in just a minute. But Real Madrid, again, you know, I don't know how they celebrate. And you get kind of tired of celebrating when you win that many times. Did you find that way when you with Manchester United back in the day? Did it get boring? Here we go again.
How does it ever get boring?
Well, I don't know. I've never been in that situation. I wouldn't actually know. Real Madrid, then Kylian Mbappe has now agreed to join them. I mean, they've been talking about this for a while. So it's not until the 1st of July when the transfer window opens again for La Liga. But Kylian Mbappe is going to join. Look, this is the game from Saturday. Vinicius Jr. there. And you know what? Real Madrid just did what they do. There was all these people talking about, oh, Dortmund are doing so well and what's happened to Real Madrid. And anybody that knows anything about football knows that Real Madrid will always win. They just find a way. 74.
They didn't have a single shot.
They didn't have a single shot. That's the first time no club has had a single shot in the opening or the first half of a Champions League final. The last team was Tottenham Hotspur that didn't have a single shot. So anyway, but they go out in the second half and they win. They find a way of winning. So Luka Modric has signed a one-year extension. He's 38 years old, so he's going to start at Real Madrid. And then they've got Kylian Mbappe coming in. You hear about the security, though, at the Champions League final?
Oh, yeah.
Some of these idiots running on the pitch?
This is becoming a habit now, isn't it?
It really is. And the worst thing is that it's a streamer, you know, it's a YouTuber from Russia who offered £300,000 to anybody that would run on the pitch with his name, Melstroy, written on the front of their shirt. So you've got all these people that are thinking, great, I'll run on there. So look at these idiots. So right at the start of the game, £300,000 they think they're going to get. So what they should do now is fine them, what, £350,000?
Yeah.
And just, it's got to stop. But what do? You know, it's all about security. There's the guy, there's the idiot there.
Machine gun posts. That's what you do.
Do you think that's the answer?
You know, the way, like, Stalag 17 and whatever.
Yeah. Well, just have them around, just dotted around.
Yeah.
Snipers around the...
No, machine guns, just...
Yeah,
that's the end of them. That's
the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. Sounds so simple.
OK, simple.
No, Jose, he signed for Fenerbahce.
Yes, he's gone to Fenerbahce in Turkey. He was doing all the punditry on Saturday night, wasn't giving away too much. Flies into Turkey. It's his 11th job. He's won a trophy everywhere he's managed, apart from...
Man United.
Spurs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he doesn't like Spurs. He really doesn't like Spurs.
Yeah, he doesn't, does he?
He likes the supporters, but he doesn't like the management of Spurs. The whole thing. But sure, that could be said for a lot of us.
Anyway, should we hear for what he had to say? This is very brief. But this is him giving the big one. Jose Mourinho talking at Fenerbahce yesterday. Here we go.
It's a big responsibility that I feel, and I promise you that from this moment I belong to your family. This shirt is my skin.
Crowd there?
He's a poet.
Shirt is my skin. There must have been 60,000 people there, all waiting to see him.
He knows how to play them. Paul, see you again, 20 past 8. 7? 20 past 7, yeah. And we're going to review newspapers.
We are, and we are in the company of Dawn Neeson and Christopher Biggins to see what is making the news this Monday morning. See you in just a moment.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays of up to an hour with some cancellations to trains between Manchester, Piccadilly and Stockport after an investigation. In Derbyshire, the A6 is closed each way along Buxton Road at Furness Vale for an investigation. There are delays and cancellations to trains between Ipswich and Norwich because of a signalling problem between Stowmarket and Diss. On the M26 in Kent, it's very slow westbound already this morning, heading onto the M25 because of lane closures for roadworks. Also in Kent, on the A249, there are southbound queues towards junction 5 of the M2 at the Stockley roundabout at Sittingbourne because of roadworks, and Southern Rail services are suspended between Brighton and Lewis, and that's because of electrical supply problems. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Dawn Neeson and Christopher Biggins, we say good morning to them as they say hello. Good morning to the pages of the newspaper that are making the news. Biggins, are you interested in the whole election business that's kicking off? We've been talking about that, and we're talking about some of the boring topics they're all talking about, and nothing seems to be relevant, you know. And
no, I'd like to go away for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And come back when it's all over.
Yeah.
You're not the
and then
only
leave
one.
again. I find it terribly tedious.
Well, on the upside, at least it'll be done and dusted, because all this, will it be in the summer, will it be in November, will it be in January?
This is true.
Then we can just get on with
true.
life as of July the 5th. So that's the positive.
Do you think that Richie did it because he doesn't want to be Prime
I think
Minister?
he fancied the second week at Wimbledon.
You're right. And funny enough, I can't think of anybody who would want to be Prime Minister of this country. Can you?
I don't know. I mean, he doesn't need to do it. He's not doing it for the money. He's not doing it for the success. He was already successful in his own right. He clearly had that public service, you know, gene.
What are you talking about? It's an ego. It's something to do with public. Of course it is.
Come on, don't be so...
No.
cynical.
Well, sorry, don't you be so naive about it.
Well,
they're egotistical beyond belief to sit and say, I want to be Prime Minister because I've got the money to do it, and therefore that's why I'm going to do it.
I'm sure they both have egos, but I do believe that they have a public servant deep within both of them, because otherwise, why would you do it? He's getting absolutely slated. He can't do right from wrong.
Well, that's because he keeps doing wrong. You're going to do maths till you're 18 at school. That's going to be forced on you. What other rubbish has he been talking about? So what was the other thing?
Fly tipping was very sexy.
Quadruple lock.
Yeah, and national service for kids.
National service, that was the thing. That was the other bit of rubbish.
Kind of national service.
Why did they even talk about it? It'll not happen. It'll not happen. Did you do national service?
Certainly not. Well, I've always thought it's a very good idea to have national service, but I would have hated it, except I suppose I would have gone into the entertainment side.
I think that's the point. It appeals to this genre, but the young, it doesn't appeal to. So it's quite blatant grey vote electioneering, isn't it? And I think that's where they've sort of shown their true colours.
But I think people want to get rid of... sorry to interrupt. I think people want to get rid of knives on the streets, and the fact that the young seem to have no feeling for what they're in. You know,
and I'm being serious here. Do something about seagulls. You know, all this nonsense, these are things that affect everybody's life, but nobody does anything about it, whereas seagulls just, you know, what's the word I can use instead of, well, they defecate all over your car, for instance, and your windows and all sorts of things, and they are pests, and somebody should be controlling them.
I was recently in Japan on a ship, and I came off to spend the day in Japan, and one of them defecated on me.
Yes.
Good luck.
I know, but it's not very attractive.
No.
And I had to go back on the ship and clean myself up because it was horrible.
Is it big in Japan?
Huge.
That's so. Dawn, right? Let's talk about women's spaces. This is something we're going to be talking about with Kemi Badenoch after 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I think this is incredibly important. It's front page of the Mail and the Telegraph, and the Tories pledge to change law to clarify sex and gender definitions to safeguard. Sex is a fact of biology. The fact that we have to legislate to say that, and B, it actually makes a splash in the national newspaper is insane. Of course, sex is biological. You cannot change sex. And the fact we've got to this stage, as Isabel was saying earlier, where we have to actually legislate and say, OK, this is now going to be in law.
Why haven't they legislated about it? Why are they making it now? So we believe the Tories would do it. We believe Labour wouldn't do it.
Well, I mean, it was 2022, wasn't it, that Keir Starmer did have trouble identifying what a woman was and said it's not only women that have cervixes. Yes, it is. So, and that's why this is the policy that really is, as they keep saying, putting clear blue water between the two parties. Keir Starmer probably even now would still be, well, you know, trans women are women, aren't they, type thing. The thing is with this, I mean, it's common sense. Of course, it's biology. You can't argue with biology and chromosomes. They are facts. The thing is with this also, the facts that women only spaces, this also applies to transgender women who have had reconstructive surgery. Now, very, very few transgender women have reconstructive surgery. It's incredibly painful, incredibly complicated, and actually never really works. But what do those women do? So if you have had surgery to become a woman and you now have a woman's bits and no boy bits, are you going to be put in a male prison? Are you going to be put in a male hospital ward? The same issues then apply to those people who physically are a woman but then are going to be put in a man's space. It's a grey area, I think, for those that have had reconstructive surgery. However, a fair play to the Tories, common sense policy, and of course...
Except, here's my question, who is this really going to turn in an election? As in, the people who strongly believe these views,
women
already strongly believe these views, and probably would vote with the Conservatives on this. The people who are probably a bit more on, you know, the Conservative side in terms of, or perhaps the more liberal side on this, will probably vote Labour. So will this actually win them any votes, or is this just, again, playing to their own same caucus?
Well, it kind of is, but I also think there are a lot of women out there, you know, on all party sides who... were really upset and very angry about
Do you think
this
would get J.K. Rowling voting Conservative? She doesn't strike me as a Conservative voter normally.
Well, I think if Labour carry on ploughing down this fact that, you know, men with all their boy bits can be allowed in our changing rooms, in our hospital wards, in our toilets, then very, very might well convince her.
OK. And that's the big line from the Conservatives today. Biggins, the line for the Labour Party is going to be all about defence. But actually, it's been interesting seeing the newspaper doing exactly what Eamonn thinks is a good thing, not going with the press release, not going with what they want us to talk about, and saying, actually, they're talking about a soft Brexit, and what we're hearing from the EU is dream on.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, it's hysterical, really, because Starmer wants to have a European Union with winning power, which would mean signing up more Brussels rules. I mean, Labour has set out leaver-friendly red lines on Brexit: no rejoining, no single market, no customs union, and wants to boost economy by easing trade using a veterinary agreement, meaning fewer checks on products. I mean, it beggars belief.
And you know what? It's not going to go down. It's 2019. The Red Wall voted for Boris and the Tories because they wanted Brexit to be done properly.
Yes.
And so now, if you're reading this and you're one of those Red Wall voters, you're going to be going, well, hold on a minute. What was all that about then? Are we going to be dragged back into it?
They've said that they absolutely won't. It's a red line they won't cross, rejoining the European Union. And I think, quite frankly, the European Union wouldn't have us.
Well, this is the big thing. I mean, you know, the noise coming from the EU is, yeah, right, in your dreams. And if they do any kind of deal with us, Isabel, what kind of deal are they going to do?
Not a good one.
Worse.
Can I ask you about Diane Abbott? She says she's going to run for an MP again. Am I the only person that has looked at Diane Abbott on television and thought that woman does not look well?
Well, she's 70.
Sorry, but she's shaking a lot. She's been assisted by 2 people.
Yes.
Yes, but look at President Biden. Doesn't stop people being in politics anymore.
No, but I'm just saying, no one has mentioned, if someone is concerned about her physiology and if she's up to it or not, why is nobody saying that? Nobody is saying this at all.
Because I think it's a very difficult line to go down, because I think there's a lot hanging on this. You know, I mean, it's now being used as a political, nothing to do with her health, but I agree with you, Eamonn. I don't think she looks well at all.
I think it's extraordinary that the Labour Party think they have room for Natalie Elphicke, who is about as right-wing as you can get, but not for a Labour veteran like Diane Abbott.
I think, regardless of what you think of anyone's policies, I think the way Labour have treated Diane Abbott has been absolutely appalling.
Terrible.
You know, considering what she's achieved, I mean, you know, an amazing achievement for a black woman, you know, back in the day. Incredible what she's
And also, they've told lies by saying we offered her an appointment in the House of Lords, which is rubbish.
It's not disgraceful the way they're treating you. She's a Corbynista. And they're not going to mean, you know, she had an affair with Jeremy Corbyn as well.
She did.
They don't want her there.
Well, Angela Rayner manages to be, you know, right in the centre of the shadow cabinet. So
yeah, I mean, I was, it's, you know, and in theory, according to Rishi Sunak, she is running the Labour Party. But no, I think someone of Diane Abbott's service to the Labour Party and what she's achieved, I think deserves a bit more respect than the way she's been treated.
What do you think of Stormy Daniels?
There's sublime links going on this morning. What do I think of it? I just am sick to the back teeth of her, to be honest with you. And what really annoyed me today was, here's my advice to Mrs. Trump. You should leave him. He's no good. And it's like, none of your... I was going to swear. Sorry, it's none of your business at all. I mean, I think, look, OK, she's part of this court case and, you know, she's standing up for herself, etc. But I think, you know, giving her opinion on, you know, Trump and his relationship with his wife, I just think
she's caused him a heck of a problem now, hasn't
she? And also saying that she should go to prison. You know, she's just saying this is, you know, this is... Put him in jail now.
Which is
very possible.
Which is possible.
What will happen?
They're not going to.
I wanted to get onto this story quickly, Biggins, about probing a NASA probe going to Uranus.
You naughty girl. I mean, I think I get so angry that we want to keep going and spending billions and billions and billions of pounds.
I think it's immoral.
It is immoral. Yeah. We're in a situation where people can't afford to eat, and yet they want to go and see if ET's on the moon or something. It's ridiculous.
I would say what nobody's telling you is, I'd say we're all going to hell in a handcart, and they're trying to find escape ways out of the...
Yeah, you're right.
Shoot me rather than send me to Uranus. Thanks very much.
That's what you said last night.
Thank you.
On that note, we will say goodbye to Megan and to Dawn, and hello, Mark and Britannia. You're going to give us an update on the forecast. Stop it, you.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw plenty of fine weather across the bulk of the UK through the weekend, but things are turning more changeable during the week ahead. Most of us are seeing some rain at times, but equally, still some warm sunshine to look forward to too at times. Back to the detail for this morning, though, and outbreaks of rain affecting Northern Ireland, South West Scotland, moving south into parts of Northern England as we head through the day. Most of that fairly light and patchy, but the odd heavy burst in places. To the south of that, much brighter, particularly across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, but generally a cloudier day across the south of the UK than during the weekend. The best of the sunshine generally reserved for parts of Scotland, although towards the far north, quite a few blustery showers around. Still quite warm though when the sun does come through, temperatures into the low 20s at best. As we head into the latter stage of the day, into the early part of the evening, quite a bit of cloud across the south of the UK, generally the best of the brightness across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, and temperatures still doing quite well in that sunshine into the high teens, locally even still 20 degrees in one or two spots. Notice how across northern England, parts of Northern Ireland, the cloud thick enough to give one or two spots of rain in places, and the best of the sunshine still reserved for parts of central Scotland, with blustery showers packing in there towards the Northern Isles. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period, those outbreaks of rain across the central slice of the UK continue to journey southwards but tend to break up, leaving a legacy of a fair bit of cloud across much of England and Wales into the overnight period. And although there'll be clear spells towards the north and northwest for a time, notice as we head towards Tuesday morning, further outbreaks of rain moving in across the northwest of the UK, and some of those turning heavy in places by Tuesday morning itself. Quite a mild night with all the cloud around, but notice as we head into Tuesday, quite an unsettled day unfolding. Those outbreaks of rain towards the northwest starting to slip their way southeastwards towards England and Wales as we head into the latter stages of Tuesday. One or two heavy bursts in places. The far south and southeast holding on to some sunshine and brighter skies, but with blustery showers packing across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and generally a cooler day than in recent days, peaking at 21 Celsius in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There's disruption to Merseyrail train services between Ormskirk and Liverpool Moorfields because of a shortage of staff. There are delays of up to 20 minutes to trains between Manchester Piccadilly and Stockport after an incident earlier on. There are some cancelled trains between Ipswich and Norwich after a signalling problem near Diss. In London, the A208 is partly blocked by an accident on Chislehurst Road at Petts Wood, causing delays on the M26 in Kent. It's slow westbound, heading onto the M25 again this morning because of roadworks. Also in Kent, it's slow on the A249 southbound towards roadworks just before junction 5 of the M2 at the Stockbury roundabout near Sittingbourne, and train services are suspended between Brighton and Lewes because of electrical supply problems. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We've got summer sewn up with an incredible trio of treats, and you could win them. First, there's a fabulous £15,000 in tax-free cash to ensure this summer is special. What would you spend that on? Next, you'll also receive the latest iPhone 15 and a set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at your favourite UK attraction. Fun in the sun could be on us. For a chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to the programme. It is fast approaching 7 o'clock on this Monday morning, the 3rd of June. You're tuned into Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Good to have you on board. Leading the news this morning, the Prince of Wales is leading tributes to the rugby league legend Rob Burrow following his death at the age of 41 after a 5-year battle with motor neurone disease.
The Prime Minister in the South East today as he's set to announce the Conservative manifesto altering the Equality Act to try and protect women's spaces.
Sir Keir Starmer will turn his focus to national security, committing to the nuclear deterrent triple lock.
And we'll continue our series of D-Day veterans in the run-up to the 80th anniversary of the historic landings on Thursday. Today, our reporter is speaking to a 99-year-old veteran, Mervyn Kirsch.
And the residents of Bath fighting their council over a rise in unruly, unsociable seagulls.
And in the sport, Real Madrid celebrated winning another Champions League title by getting the world's best footballer to join them. Actually, Harry Kane, the second best footballer in the world. Tennis players have complained about late finishes as Novak Djokovic's match ended at 3:07 a.m. at the French Open. And Jose Mourinho tells Turkish fans, "This shirt is my skin," as he takes over as manager of Fenerbahce.
Good morning. We saw a fine weekend for many with plenty of sunshine around, but we are seeing more in the way of cloud developing from the north as we head through the day today, even bringing some patchy rain in places. I'll have all the details later.
We just want to begin this morning with the tributes which are flowing in for the former England Rugby League international Rob Burrow, who died aged 41. That was after a 5-year battle with motor neurone disease.
He was one of the sport's most successful players, having won 8 Super League titles and 2 Challenge Cups.
His family say he'll continue to inspire us all every day after he raised millions of pounds for M&D research.
And in a personally signed message on social media, the Prince of Wales paid tribute to Rob, describing him as a legend who had a huge heart. We send our condolences to his wife and 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy.
If you've got tributes, if you've got something to say about M&D and how it affects your life, your family's life, please let us know this morning. This is how you get in touch, gbnews.com/your-say.
Now to the election campaign trail, and the Prime Minister is due to travel to the southeast of England today as he's pledging to amend the Equality Act to protect women's spaces and make clear sex means biological sex.
Sir Keir Starmer is expected to make a big announcement on security, reaffirming Labour's commitment to a nuclear deterrent triple lock, an aim to increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP.
So here to debate all the stories of the day, we have the Labour advisor Stella Chadakidou and the former Conservative Special Advisor Fred de Fossard in the studio. Let's start with you, Stella, because we had problems with your mic last hour, so I want to give you a good run this time. But just give us a little sense of why Sir Keir Starmer, who wants to be no drama Starmer, has decided to go for defence, which is traditionally a wobbly area for the Labour leader.
Exactly for the reason you just said. He wants to show that the Labour Party is no longer the party for protest. We are now the party for national security. And he will be saying, look, the Conservatives, this may have been a policy that is important for them, but the reality is they have failed to increase military spending. If anything, they have depressed.
But their pledge is actually more concrete than what even he'll be announcing today. I mean, just weeks ago, the Defence Secretary and Rishi Sunak stood shoulder to shoulder saying, we will commit to 2.5% of GDP, whereas Keir Starmer today is saying, when economic conditions allow. Well,
and
when will that be?
The Labour Party will do the same. Today they are committing to 2.5%, but I think more important is what they're trying to show with the culture shift in the Labour Party. So alongside that, alongside the policy, he's also revealing 14 new Labour Party candidates who have a military background, and there you will find Royal Marine captains and people who have made a career out of the military. And what he's trying to show is, look, policies are all good, and we all have, as you said, very similar policies, but at the same time, the kind of person for whom national security is important is choosing to stand as a Labour candidate and vote for the Labour Party.
And will this be a worry, do you think, Fred, then, for the Conservatives? This is sort of parking their tanks on Tory territory.
I think Stella makes a very fair point about culture shift. I would definitely agree with that. To an extent, yes, it's parking tanks on Conservative territory. It's continuity in terms of policy, that's for sure. I mean, the Vanguard submarines are going to continue. But I think there's an opportunity for the Conservatives and people who are sceptical of Labour to dig into the details of what they're proposing. Where is the money for their increased defence spending, especially when Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, wants to bind the government and therefore Parliament's own hand to the will of the OBR even more than it is right now? Where does this stand with the Labour Party's potential commitment to try and rejoin or bring Britain into some EU defence cooperation? cooperation pact, which would significantly reduce Britain's leeway to deploy armed forces around the world in British interests. It would subordinate Britain's defence to the interests of France and Germany. I don't think that's anything that British voters want. I think there's an opportunity to raise the stakes of this debate, make it more prominent. It'd be really interesting if we could see Lord Cameron and maybe David Lammy go head-to-head, sort of show their competing visions for Britain and the world and national security.
Head-to-head on what? Because there's no new initiatives, there's no new policy because there's no money.
That's true. I mean, that's a sort of inescapable fact. Each party is trying to claim there's new money to spend here, but they still do have fundamentally different priorities. Labour are talking about a closer relationship with the European Union. That has implications for defence policy, as this EU defence harmonisation idea suggests. That is not in Britain's interest, and wavering voters would not like that policy
What
either.
you're looking for is a bit of theatre attached to things.
Maybe. I mean, everyone's been saying this is a boring election campaign. So far, the most theatre has been provided by Nigel Farage, and he isn't even standing for a seat.
That's interesting. What about this Brexit talk that we're hearing? It's on the front of the Eye this morning that the Labour's plans for a softer Brexit is actually far too ambitious, according to the EU. And actually, if they get what they're talking about, it's actually what a lot of Brexiteers wanted, which is independence from the European Union, but no friction on trade. Well, good luck with that.
Yes, well, we will see what happens with that, because I think people are underestimating how much difference a changing of the guards can make when it comes to government. Because a big failure with the EU was that you had the changing leadership, you had foreign secretaries, EU secretaries changing all the time, and then you had a very bad relationship with EU leaders. You had politicians trying to brief the media and trying to show something to their voters because they were worried about elections, and they were worried about the Conservative Party has been so worried about managing the party, basically, and keeping everyone happy. That was incredibly difficult. Whereas Keir Starmer is likely going to have a very big majority. He's going to have a much, much better time. But one thing is for sure, he's made it perfectly clear he will be decreasing immigration. There is no backpedaling on Brexit. The Labour Party has heard the message loud and clear.
I tell you what's not loud and clear, Fred. Rupert Murdoch. Right. So he's getting married. But, you know, in every previous election, going back 40 years or so, he's been there at the centre of all this, talking to one party or the other, saying, I'm the man that you want, play ball with me, things will be good for you. Why is he not involved anymore?
That's a great question. I mean, for one, I wouldn't... let's not overstate the impact of a media baron on a general election. The British democracy is pretty robust, and I don't believe that whole, like, 1992, it was the Sun what won it thing. It was the public not trusting Neil Kinnock, definitely not Rupert Murdoch and the Sun. But I can also see there's like many people, there's a sort of long-term disillusionment with the Conservatives, but that's not met on the other side with instinctive trust in the Labour Party's agenda. And also, remember, Keir Starmer's history with Leveson, prosecutions of journalists when he was Director of Public Prosecutions. There might be a fair bit of like a trust deficit that he needs to build up. It might be difficult.
Is there a trust deficit for women and the Labour Party? Do they have a women's problem? And this is what Kemi Badenoch will be trying to persuade us all today that they do.
I think they no longer do, because Keir Starmer has come out and said, look, a woman is a woman. And
yes, but 5 minutes ago, he had a problem with that. So, you know, flip-flop Starmer has not covered himself in glory when it comes to women.
It is a political minefield. I'm not going to deny that. And I did not enjoy seeing Labour Party politicians or politicians of any stripe trying to do the tongue twisters and come to an actual policy. But I think with this one, Kemi Badenoch here is just trying to steer, to get more attention on a policy issue that the Conservatives believe will get them attention from their core voting group, when in fact I don't think that there is a policy need for an actual change. The Equalities and Human Rights Council has said there is no actual need for a new law, because if it is proportionate and if there is a legitimate aim, all of these services that Kemi Badenoch is referencing, like rape crisis centres, for example, they can bar trans women if they feel that there is a legitimate issue there. For example, if a rape victim says that they are not comfortable or in a similar situation.
Fred,
so I think this is all just red meat.
When you were talking about the difference in the polls, and it's a 21-point lead or so for Labour, could you honestly see any way that could be turned around?
There's a thin and narrow path, but there's not very much time left. I don't think it is through a big, comprehensive series of policy blitzes. I think the party that does policy blitzes is always the party kind of on the back foot, seeking attention. The way to do that is to do a much more precise campaign of sowing doubt and disillusionment with Starmer and particularly Rachel Reeves. Why they want to cap ISA savings accounts, why they want to increase taxes on pension contributions, but not for people in the NHS. So it's an interesting message they want to send to middle and higher earners in the private sector, that we will tax you to pay for the public sector. Those are areas where you can cause a bit of a dividing line, but right now we're not seeing that from the Conservative Party.
Just a yes and no answer from everybody, and I just really want to know whether or not you trust polls anymore.
No.
Not especially.
I don't either. I think the polls could be completely wrong once again. It remains to be seen. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Stella Chatterkidu and Fred de Fossard. Quite interesting names on the panel this morning for us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's give you a roundup now of other stories on this Monday morning. Landmark research has found that more under 50s than ever are getting cancer. Rates are soaring in the young. Rates amongst adults aged 25 to 50 have increased by a quarter since the 1990s, with cases now rising twice as fast than in the elderly. Experts are putting this down to changes in diet and the increase in ultra-processed foods. Now, that's the sort of issue you think that politicians could be tackling and could be making that an issue for the general election. Ultra-processed foods affect everyone, and if this is the result of them, somebody has got to do something about it. Let us know your views.
The luxury cruise line Cunard is officially naming its new ship the Queen Anne in Liverpool later today. The ship will sail into Mersey at 7 o'clock, or about 12 minutes ago, with the naming ceremony to take place this afternoon. The singer Andrea Bocelli will top the bill of performances, with Emma and Matt Willis hosting the ceremony.
See that? Ships don't have decks anymore. Just have floors, layers and layers and layers. It's not like the days of the Titanic or whatever, that you could walk around a deck. But there you are, magnificent though it is. That's it. And let's congratulate Rupert Murdoch, who's married for the 5th time. He's 93. He tied the knot with retired Russian biologist Elena Zhukova at his Californian vineyard. Wedding photos show Mr. Murdoch in a dark suit with a yellow tie, beaming alongside his new 67-year-old wife. And we were saying how lovely she looks.
Absolutely stunning dress. I think my favourite wedding dress of the year that I've seen.
Well, I wouldn't say stunning. I would say very smart. Well, stunning suggests elaborate or whatever it is. But
no, stunning. It just stuns me. It takes my breath away. I think it's absolutely exquisite. I love it.
OK. Right. Ahead of the... We'll just say Thursday, you'll have seen the D-Day commemorations, and it's all going to be marked on Thursday, and we're sharing stories of men and women who risked their lives for Britain's freedom.
99-year-old Mervyn Kirsch served in the Royal Army Service Corps, landing on Gold Beach 4 days after the main assault. He volunteered for a reconnaissance mission after an advance party returned with only one survivor.
Our man Will Hollis spoke to Mervyn at the Union Jack Club in London.
I didn't feel scared. I thought it was a great adventure.
Mervyn Kirsch was a boy when the war began. By D-Day, he was trained and ready to fight after years waiting.
It was taking a long time. I suppose I was an agitator.
He remembers reality unfolding to the sound of thumping guns.
In the morning, about 5 o'clock, they woke me up to say we were going towards France now, and I could see the outline in the dawn. And I could hear couldn't see, but I could hear the shells, big shells going overhead both ways. Nobody was bothering to fire at me, which was quite good. Then I began to feel nervous, and I sort of realised it's not just an adventure, it's actual world war.
Mervyn served in the Ordnance Regiment. His job was to get supplies like ammunition and vehicles onto the beach. When an advance party, including some of his friends, were destroyed, Mervyn stepped up.
The head of me went to a reconnaissance unit. We were supposed to go on D+6. The reconnaissance unit was going D+2 to find a suitable site for 200 drivers and 1,000 vehicles, which we were going to stock, all kinds. They went across, but they didn't get across. They were torpedoes, the only boats torpedoed that day. And they were all blown to pieces. None of them were. Just the boss, my CO, Colonel Gore, survived. He was on deck and he got thrown into the sea. So he came back and asked the volunteers to take their place. And I was apparently the only one. I didn't realise I was the only one who volunteered.
Under the cover of darkness, he landed in Normandy.
So I was put on a boat that night, any boat, going across, and told to find a suitable site for vehicles and men. So I just crossed over them, and I landed, got to the top of the cliff, and just with a strange driver in a tracked vehicle, told him just to drive down one of the roads and see what we can find.
He returns to Normandy for the 80th anniversary. Will Hollis, GB News.
And we'll be reflecting all week on lots of veteran stories, looking back on 80 years since D-Day.
Now, would you have watched any of the D-Day films?
I haven't, but it's on my list, my to-do list, actually, because I'm going down to Portsmouth this week for lots of the commemorations.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I've got to find time to watch lots of the stuff, because there's been loads of really great documentaries and stuff on the BBC and the like this week, hasn't there?
The Longest Day. You'll get John Wayne, Henry Fonda.
Oh, the old classics you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what do you think I'm talking about?
I thought you meant lots of the coverage in the build-up.
I'm talking, you see, as boys growing up, that would have been standard fare for us to watch. But I'm thinking, bet you never watched it.
No, but I heard my grandfather's stories firsthand, time and again, growing up. He was a D-Day +1. He went to Sword Beach with the Canadians, and he'd survived the Dieppe raids 2 years before, so as a 22-year-old, he'd seen people being killed.
And did he come back from Sword Beach?
No, he stayed and he worked with the Allies as they went across.
He didn't die, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he survived, but he was later injured, and then he recovered in Belgium, which is where he met my grandmother and fell in love with her and brought her back to Britain later on. But it's a remarkable story, and I've been thinking about him a lot over the last few days, and I think lots of people at home will have their own memories from family, and it is that time of reflection, and I guess kind of the sacrifice these people made willingly. I mean, the fact that Grandpa had been to Dieppe and had been and seen all of that, we'd all have post-traumatic stress in these days if that had been us.
My uncle Tommy Bell, diffused limpet mines from the sides of warships.
Wow.
And he got a BEM, a British Empire Medal, for that.
Fantastic.
But I've got an OBE, which is 3 times, 4 times up the ladder than that. For doing what? For, being on telly and for putting your life at risk, diffusing a mine, you get a BEM. I just always find that ironic and sort of not worthy in comparison to the job that people do. But thank you for everybody who did what they did anyway. And now it's time for your weather. Let's have an update.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw plenty of fine weather across the bulk of the UK through the weekend, but things are turning more changeable during the week ahead. Most of us are seeing some rain at times, but equally, still some warm sunshine to look forward to too at times. Back to the detail for this morning though, and outbreaks of rain affecting Northern Ireland, South West Scotland, moving south into parts of Northern England as we head through the day. Most of that fairly light and patchy, but the odd heavy burst in places. To the south of that, much brighter, particularly across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, but generally a cloudier day across the south of the UK than during the weekend. The best of the sunshine generally reserved for parts of Scotland, although towards the far north, quite a few blustery showers around. Still quite warm though when the sun does come through, temperatures into the low 20s at best. As we head into the latter stage of the day, into the early part of the evening, quite a bit of cloud across the south of the UK, generally the best of the brightness across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, and temperatures still doing quite well in that sunshine into the high teens, locally even still 20 degrees in 1 or 2 spots. Notice how across northern England, parts of Northern Ireland, the cloud thick enough to give 1 or 2 spots of rain in places, and the best of the sunshine still reserved for parts of central Scotland, with blustery showers packing in there towards the Northern Isles. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period, those outbreaks of rain across the central slice of the UK continue to journey southwards but tend to break up, leaving a legacy of a fair bit of cloud across much of England and Wales into the overnight period. And although there'll be clear spells towards the north and northwest for a time, notice as we head towards Tuesday morning, Further outbreaks of rain moving in across the northwest of the UK, and some of those turning heavy in places by Tuesday morning itself. Quite a mild night with all the cloud around, but notice as we head into Tuesday, quite an unsettled day unfolding. Those outbreaks of rain towards the northwest, starting to slip their way southeastwards towards England and Wales as we head into the latter stages of Tuesday. 1 or 2 heavy bursts in places. The far south and southeast holding on to some sunshine and brighter skies, but with blustery showers packing in across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and generally a cooler day than in recent days, peaking at 21 Celsius in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, it is officially summer and we've got a brand new summer giveaway, £15,000 in cash.
Yes, that's a summer spectacular from us to you. You get a brand new iPhone as well. There's AirPods, there's 500 quid to go to an attraction of your choice in the country.
Yes, that could be a theme park or a stately home or even a spa day out. That would all be on us. Here's the details you need to enter.
It's the Great British Summer Giveaway, and have we got a prize for you? There's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For a chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, we are debating should pets, and by that basically we mean dogs, be allowed, because you don't bring your rabbit to the pub, do you?
Or your cat.
Dogs in pubs. What do you think about that? I think it is deplorable that they're not allowed in certain pubs. Now, we had a pub close to us that was our regular. We'd go all the time to eat, and the dog would come and sit under the table and everything was lovely. Then it got new owners and they decided no dogs in.
No doggies.
So there was no dogs, there was no Holmeses. That was the end of us going in there, and they lost our custom as a result, because our dog is the sort of dog that has no, it doesn't create any fuss at all around. But sometimes you go into places and you see there are people who are frightened of animals, and you can see them, they want to be offended and they want to be frightened and they want to say your dog savaged me as I was having my pork pie there and whatever. But anyway, what do you think about all of this? We'll be debating that next.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country.
That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides.
As you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel. Britain's election channel.
Now, nearly 4 in 5 pet owners have admitted that they bring their furry friends, i.e. dogs, to pubs, restaurants, you name it.
OK, but some argue bringing their dog out to eat or drink is unhygienic and unfair to other customers. So is it a yes or a no to pups in pubs?
Well, A Dog's Life podcast host Anna Webb says there's no reason to ban dogs from pubs, whereas restaurateur Giancarlo Caldesi says pets in pubs is a no-go. Let's go to you, Giancarlo, first of all, because I've just seen a your say come in from one of our viewers saying that my husband has allergies and it is very difficult being around dogs. That's from Carol this morning. So there are reasons why some people would prefer eateries to be pet-free zones.
Good morning. Well, I think it's really interesting because the public now asks us to be a kennel, a creche, and lots of things. Sound quite serious, and it is very difficult because, like Eamonn, you said, I said, I'm sorry, you can't bring your pet, and you go somewhere else. I think that is a short view, short-sighted, because you have to respect other people's premises. And it's important, really, to realize that not everybody likes dogs. I have a dog myself, which I bring to the restaurant, and we allow some of the pets in the restaurant, and we have a special place. If people ever go to a special place or a special set-aside part of any premises, it is quite difficult. And also, I don't know whether I'm not being hygienic or not, because pets, they're around us all the time, and that's what makes us much better, really, than worse. So I'm not adverse to pets, but I'm really not a kennel. And the pubs and people, we are not kennels. Okay. Who else has space? It's quite right. They should really allow you, and also
there are places, Giancarlo, I would say, Anna, that are more like kennels. I mean, pubs, traditional pubs by and large, I'd be surprised almost not to see dogs in there. And yet, when you get pubs turning away people with dogs, I think they're doing themselves out of business big time.
I think it's quite debatable, to be honest, and I think it's subjective. And I think that's very unfair to take that view because, we serve in public. Not everybody likes pets. And it's important to understand that
not
also we have a responsibility.
People. There's lots of people saying that.
No, that's true.
Or children.
Yeah. Anna, what would you say?
Eamonn, Isabel, good morning.
Morning.
I would say bringing dogs into pubs, so long as they are trained to settle and not bark, certainly not run around freely in the venue, actually brings so many advantages to an establishment. Dogs are known, scientifically proven, to just have a dog in a room, it lowers everybody's blood pressure. That's why we're seeing so many more dog-friendly offices crop up these days. You know, dogs make us smile, they reduce stress. So when you're in an eatery, what better than to feel extra relaxed? And that's what dogs can bring. In terms of, you know, allergies, people being afraid of dogs, well, you know, then choose an establishment that isn't dog-friendly. For me, it's so simple. And I just think, you know, dogs are now part of the family. And when you think that over 35% of all millennials now do own a dog, that's a very big demographic that is going into eateries. They've got the disposable income. These are the people that you want to encourage into your establishment. So for me, I just think, look, maximize the hound pound. You know, we're in a credit crunch. So think of ways to optimise, you know, business for everyone.
The hound pound. I've never heard that phrase before, but that is brilliant. I mean, what about people like me who love dogs, love pets, but have become more nervous around dogs over the last couple of years with the rise in the number of fatalities and maulings and injuries that we've seen? We know there are dangerous breeds, but it does make people like me who has never had a dog or didn't grow up with them just generally a bit more fearful of them. I mean, perhaps there needs to be a bit more awareness of how people who aren't doggy people might be feeling around them.
But if I may, as I said, for instance, in one of my restaurants, there is one part which if you bring a dog is quite okay. Now, whatever you said, a dog which has to be well-trained like kids, I agree totally. But you can't bring a dog which is 1.5 meters long and sits in the middle of the bar. And it's really difficult. And it really is a difficulty put upon us. And we need to take the strain of all these requests, which makes our job and our life quite complicated. And I agree with you, Damon, if you don't come to my restaurant. But yes, it's really sad because I don't want to lose income at the same time, but also I want to welcome. You see, if the dog is well trained, like you just said, I agree with you totally. I don't have any problems. I don't think many people have problems. But sometimes people, they let it run around. That's not correct because also,
you're right. People have got to, you know, be responsible for
take
the
responsibility.
But
please do be responsible.
And you know, we talk about dogs and humans. I mean, I think humans are usually more filthy than animals. It has to be said in many ways, but the right dog in the right place. Is this going to require a re-education from people? Because a lot of us just see our dogs as members of our family, like one of our children.
It's really important to understand that they are considered family, but they're not little people in a furry suit. So you do have to understand dogs' instincts, you know, how to desensitize them gradually to an environment like a pub. Some dogs might never like to go to a pub. They're not a pub type of dog, you know. Others will you know, adapt really well because they're a calmer temperament. But I still maintain that, you know, by going the extra mile with your dog to get the best out of your dog pays dividends. So that any dog really over time can be...
We have to leave it there, Giancarlo. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've got so much to squeeze in before 8 o'clock. Appreciate your time. Anna Webb, Giancarlo Caldesi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Bye-bye.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Stay with us. We have the sport, we have the papers, and at 1:45 we have the Labour round. Lots coming your way before 8 o'clock. See you in a moment.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning. There's disruption to Merseyrail train services this morning between Ormskirk and Liverpool Moorfields because of a shortage of staff. The M5 in Worcestershire is partly blocked southbound just before junction 8 for the M50, causing queues. In London, the A208 is partly blocked by an accident on Chislehurst Road at Pett Wood, causing delays. The M25 in Kent, there's a lane closed anti-clockwise just after junction 1B at Dartford, where a van's broken down, with queues a mile back beyond junction 2 for the A2. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues heading on to the M25 again this morning because of road works. And on the M3 in Surrey, the inside lane's closed northbound just before junction 2 for the M25, where someone's broken down and it's looking busy till Walsall Pass there. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other. Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel. Paul's here with the sport, and we just need to mention and want to mention Rob Burrow, who sadly has died at the age of 41 of motor neurone disease.
Yeah, incredibly sad, and we've seen so many tributes that have come from everybody across the sporting world, royals, everyone that's paying tribute to Rob Burrow. I want to say a few words really about him as a rugby league player, because during the sport, everybody's talking about obviously what a great man and what he did, and what Kevin Sinfield, him and his great friend raising huge amounts of money. But what a lot of people don't realise is that he was only 5'4". I mean, he was the smallest player that there was playing in rugby league. Over 500 games for Leeds Rhinos, won everything. They're the real golden generation they had. There he is there. 8 Super League championships, 2 Challenge Cups. Between 2001 and 2017, 3 World Club Championships versus Australian sides. In 2011, there was the great grand final victory against St Helens that was played at Old Trafford. He was the first player to win Man of the Match for the second time. All 37 judges, without doubt, voted that he was the man of the match. In that game, scored one of the greatest tries ever, which was just... And that typified him, because I mentioned Pocket Rocket, that's what he was. He was so quick and just went round everybody. But there's one match, and this also typifies him as well. 2010, there was a match against Hull. Now, 5'4", Rob Burrow got sin-binned for trading punches with Tonga Epilami Luaki, who's 6'5".
No.
So he ends up in a fight with this guy. He's 5'4". The other guy's a Tongan 6'5" guy, and he got sin-binned for doing it because he took him on. And that summed up the actual
He'll be remembered for that and so many other things. Just looking at the Real Madrid win on Saturday night in the Champions League, just this great thing that the trophy has been blessed.
Well,
the trophy has been blessed.
Well, have a look. Have a look. This is the trophy being blessed. Apparently, they do this all the time. There we are. No, that's just them just showing the trophy. There we are. This is just showing the trophy. Now, look. Have a look at the trophy, because there, have a look at the trophy which is being blessed. Now, there we are. He's walking up the steps there. Be Nacho walking up. Now, look at the size of the trophy when you see them holding it. For some reason, it seems to have shrunk. I saw them it was the Archbishop that was holding the trophy afterwards. And there we are. There's holding the trophy there. And there's a bit afterwards where they're holding this little trophy, and I don't know where that... Look, now that's the big one.
Yeah.
And then you see the small trophy after... Look, I don't know what the thing in the background is there.
And the flowers there and whatever. And it's amazing. They play on Saturday night, and that was done yesterday. That's incredible.
Look at that trophy. Look. What's that trophy?
You get that free in the petrol station.
Is that right? I don't know whether they traded the big one for the little one, but the trophy was blessed at Almenada Cathedral. Yes.
Novak Djokovic, he plays to after 3 o'clock in the morning. How come?
Well, it just went on. His game started at 10:37.
This is the French Open.
Yeah, French Open, went to 5 sets. Lorenzo Musetti went to 5 sets, 3:07 a.m.
Unbelievable.
He finished it. Absolute craziness.
I got to finish you there with the time at 7:39. No, 7:40. 7:40 exactly.
Okay,
thank you, my friend. Thank you very much indeed.
Coming up, Dawn Neeson and Christopher Biggins will be here taking us through the news, and then we'll be speaking to the Shadow Armed Forces Minister. Would you trust Labour with our defences? We'll have all of that after this.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
What about the elections? Because it seems that the King and everything is moving because of it, and we've got a lot of royal engagements and things that happen at this time.
Yes, well, you know, it means that he has to take more time and be at home. He can't go to all the things he wants to do. He's been doing 5 a day, which is probably made Camilla a bit cross. But what they still hope is that they can get the Japanese Emperor and Empress over. That's in July. That they can go to France for the 80th anniversary of the fighting. And he will be able to do 1 or 2 things. And Ascot he's very keen to do. Now, those aren't things that are political in any way. Just want to talk about Harry and Charles's argument, where Harry said he didn't want to stay, he wanted to go to a hotel. And it's come out now that actually King Charles is believed that he was offered St James's, and Princess Anne stays there and Beatrice stays there.
And this was for when Harry came over for his 10th anniversary.
And the policemen are wandering around with guns, and there's no chance of actually there being any problem there. So the fact that he said that it wasn't safe for him was not actually a very sensible thing to say, I don't think.
Well, he went to Nigeria, and that is, in the world ranking, it's ranked as quite a dangerous place.
Yes, one of the dangerous places in the world. But now Harry and Meghan have been invited to go to Ghana.
Oh, God. Well, it's interesting because my parents are from Ghana. I have Ghanaian heritage, and I'm thinking she'll probably then claim there's a percentage that she's Ghanaian as well. I'll be like, hang on a minute, you were Maltese, you're also Nigerian,
and
now
German,
you're going to say you're Ghanaian and German.
Yeah.
Come on. Thank you very much.
Squeeze it in.
Yeah, let's get them all in. Angela Levin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The People's Channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but actually, it's about you.
And we won't forget that. Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear
all sides
as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's election channel.
Welcome back. It's 7:43. We're going to go straight to the Shadow Armed Forces Minister, Luke Pollard. Good morning to you. This is a big sell for Labour today. You're going to try and present yourselves as the party of defence and recommitting yourselves to the nuclear deterrent. Tell us more.
Morning. Well, today, Keir Starmer and John Healey, the Shadow Defence Secretary, will set out the nuclear deterrent triple lock from Labour. That's our commitment to not only build the 4 new nuclear submarines at Barrow we need, but to ensure a 24 hours a day, 365-day continuous at-sea nuclear deterrent is preserved, with a further commitment to ensure that any upgrades that are needed to keep those submarines operational to secure that deterrent are made by a Labour government.
It's interesting, this. This will resonate with a lot of people. They'll be pleased to hear it, but there will also be huge doubters, won't there? And you can't deny this. People will say, this is somebody who just 5 years ago stood shoulder to shoulder with Jeremy Corbyn, who wanted rid of the nuclear deterrent altogether. Why should we trust him with our national security?
Well, there's no doubt that Keir has changed the Labour Party, and if he's changed the Labour Party, he can change the country as well. Labour's committed to not only 2.5% of GDP being spent on defence, but supporting our nuclear deterrent with an unshakable commitment to NATO, our allies, and support for Ukraine. Defence really is the bedrock of our Labour policy, because the first duty of any government is to keep the country safe. And that is what Keir and John Healey will be laying out today in a visit to the northwest of England, setting out the case for a strong defence with Labour.
Look, just paint me a picture of what that strong defence would look like. I mean, you're talking about 4 nuclear subs there. But what in terms of manpower or air forces, tanks on the ground, that sort of thing? Would you see the armed forces changing in what you will serve up?
I think that's a fair question. And one of the difficulties about being in opposition is that for quite valid and good reasons, it's hard to see that information, the intelligence briefing, the security assessments that only ministers receive for us to shape what the formation should look like under Labour. That's why we've committed on day one of a Labour government to a security and defence review to look at what are the threats that are facing us, what are the capabilities we have, and where we need to invest. Now, since 2010, we've lost 1 in 5 Royal Navy warships. We've lost 200 RAF planes, and we've seen the army shrunk to the smallest size since Napoleon. I have real concerns about the capability gaps that we now have, and with a land war and Russian aggression threatening not only Ukraine, our allies in Eastern Europe, but also the United Kingdom as well, we need to make sure that defence review clearly sets out what is required, in what sequence and order is that investment needed, so we can maintain the security not only for the United Kingdom, but to deter aggression against any of our allies and defeat it if necessary.
Well, as you yourself admit, this is a big change for Labour, and Sir Keir Starmer's gone a long way to try and change the look of it, so far that he would rather have the likes of Natalie Elphicke in his party than somebody like Diane Abbott, who's been a veteran of the party for so very long. Are you comfortable with a Labour Party that looks like that and the treatment of her? She says that there have been briefings against her by overgrown schoolboys.
Well, the fact that Keir has changed the Labour Party in such a way that someone with such strong views on migration as Natalie Elphicke and a trailblazer like Diane Abbott could be part of it, I think shows that the Labour Party is a party ready to govern for all of Britain.
Could argue Natalie Elphicke's been better treated than Diane Abbott.
Well, Diane Abbott's now part of the PLP, at least they were until Parliament was dissolved. She's clear to stand at the general election. I'm a big fan of Diane. She is a trailblazer in our party, and I expect her to stand and to win. All of that is, of course, subject to the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party signing off all candidates, myself included, at a meeting tomorrow. But I expect Diane to stand, and I expect her to win.
She says she will run, and she believes she will win as a Labour candidate there. We will see how that all plays out. What about at the front of the I newspaper this morning? And this is talking about the Labour Party and its position on Brexit. Now, you've set out a bunch of red lines. You said you're absolutely not seeking to rejoin. But what this paper is claiming is that from the inside within the EU, your ambitions are cloud cuckoo land. It's a unicorn sort of version of Brexit that you're trying to sell people. And if this was possible, surely it would have been done.
It's certainly true that since the botched Brexit deal was put in place, many of our businesses, exporters of food, fish, agricultural products in particular, have really struggled with the additional paperwork that's come from that botched deal. What's Labour's set out is our ambition to have a veterinary agreement with the EU. That's an agreement that New Zealand has with the EU that removes the paperwork on food and drink exports. Now, that would make a substantial difference to fishers and farmers right across the United Kingdom. It's really important that we remove that. Well, Sunak has chosen not to offer and not to negotiate a veterinary agreement. He chose to not argue for one when Boris Johnson put through that botched Brexit deal. And I don't think, honestly, anyone who voted Leave was doing so to do over our fishers and farmers. Quite the opposite. I think they wanted better support for our fishers and farmers. That's why at this general election, Labour's saying we won't rejoin the single market, we won't rejoin the customs union, but we will seek to renegotiate a deal on veterinary agreements that removes paperwork. And I can't really imagine people being a big fan of paperwork. And this is a cost that delays our quality produce getting market. It reduces the price of that because it's reduced in quality. Now, I don't think anyone wants that. This is a sensible change to improve what was a pretty rubbish deal and ensure that we're backing our food and drink producers. I think that's good news for British business.
Good man. Look, Pollard, thank you very much indeed. We've got to leave it there. Well, what a beautiful backdrop there. Tell us where you are and why you're there.
I'm in Monmouth in South Wales at the moment, visiting veterans groups, supporting Labour candidates, but it is an absolutely stunning day here. I just wish I took my hay fever medicine before I came out today, so I'm a bit sniffly.
Oh dear. Oh dear. All right, well, we'll leave you to battle on with that. Luke Pollard, thanks very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dawn Neeson, Christopher Biggins here to look at some of the stories in the papers. And Chris, the care agencies accused of exploiting foreign workers. Now, this is a massive issue, having care workers, being able to pay care workers the wage they should be on. What state is it in? This is in the Guardian front page.
Well, it's in a terrible status. I mean, it's just awful. I mean, British social care agencies have been accused of exploiting foreign workers, leaving migrants living on the breadline as they struggle to pay off debts run up while trying to secure jobs that fail to materialise. I mean, it's unbelievable. They're offering these jobs, and these people are paying to get a job, and then it doesn't happen.
No, well, it's something that we'll neglect at our cost if we don't pay attention.
Exactly, it'll get worse and worse and worse. I mean, unfortunately, that was the problem of Brexit and everything that happened around that period, that they got rid of all that, and then everybody left the country. So you go to a restaurant, restaurants can't get staff.
And care homes can't get
care homes can't get
The thing is with the whole social care situation, and everyone goes, oh, the NHS... Until we sort out the social care situation in this country, we're never going to improve the NHS because that's what's holding us back. And we do not treat people who work in care homes and social care with the respect or the financial rewards they deserve. It's one of the toughest, hardest jobs to do, working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's just... We just don't...
But, Dawn, it's the usual thing. It's where do you get the money from? And we have to prioritise about what we spend money on, and
there are more managers in the NHS post-COVID than pre-COVID. Surely that's the first place. £200,000 salary and bonuses on top. Meanwhile, a care worker can be on 20
But also, I think,
lucky.
you know, with the National Health Service, if you can afford something, you should pay something towards your operation.
I think there should be a moral
which happens in
imperative.
France, I think,
that certainly happens in Australia as well.
Yes, I mean, it seems, you know, you can't afford to pay £25,000, but perhaps you could afford 5 or something.
Dawn, this story today about processed foods, about poor diets related to cancer rises.
Yeah, this is a front page of the Times, and this sort of links in with what we've just been talking about, the fact the NHS is going to be under even more pressure. More young adults than ever are developing cancer, with cases rising twice as fast in the under 50s as in the elderly. Evidence suggests the surge in early onset cancer is linked to harmful gut bacteria and chronic inflammation caused by a shift in diet. And the fact that now our diets are so poor and so reliant, I mean, I find one to talk, I can't cook to save my life, so reliant on takeaways and fast food and heavily processed
So will we hear a
foods.
word about this in the election campaign? No, we will not.
No.
And this really gets me about how strong the food lobby is. And the most malign influence on all our food and everything that we eat and is bad for us is from America.
Oh, it is, honestly.
You're just back from America.
I've just come back from America, and Eamonn, I'm probably one of the only people that goes to America and manages to lose weight because I couldn't find a single thing I wanted to eat. Everything was deep fried. I mean, we were in the south, to be fair. I get on the west coast, maybe it's different, but the diet was appalling. I mean, it really was. It was just
the amount of foods, particularly cereals, that are on sale in America and that are banned from being sold in Europe and the United Kingdom.
Yeah, right. Loaded with sugar.
It's incredible. Got to leave it there, guys. We're going to have you back in 40 minutes' time.
Yes, and with any luck, we're going to talk about these slugs, because it's a true story, this slug invasion. More on that with all this dodgy weather. Speaking of, Marco Britannia is going to give us all the details because it's a short reprieve in the weather and then it's going to get a bit damp and cold again. Here he is with all your details.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw plenty of fine weather across the bulk of the UK through the weekend, but things are turning more changeable during the week ahead. Most of us are seeing some rain at times, but equally still some warm sunshine to look forward to too at times. Back to the detail for this morning though, and outbreaks of rain affecting Northern Ireland, South West Scotland, moving south into parts of Northern England as we head through the day. Most of that fairly light and patchy, but the odd heavy burst in places. To the south of that, much brighter, particularly across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, but generally a cloudier day across the south of the UK than during the weekend. The best of the sunshine generally reserved for parts of Scotland, although towards the far north, quite a few blustery showers around. Still quite warm though when the sun does come through, temperatures into the low 20s at best. As we head into the latter stage of the day, into the early part of the evening, quite a bit of cloud across the south of the UK, generally the best of the brightness across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, and temperatures still doing quite well in that sunshine into the high teens, locally even still 20 degrees in one or two spots. Notice though across northern England, parts of Northern Ireland, the cloud thick enough to give one or two spots of rain in places, and the best of the sunshine still reserved for parts of central Scotland, with blustery showers packing in there towards the Northern Isles. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period, those outbreaks of rain across the central slice of the UK continue to journey southwards but tend to break up, leaving a legacy of a fair bit of cloud across much of England and Wales into the overnight period. And although there'll be clear spells towards the north and northwest for a time, notice as we head towards Tuesday morning, further outbreaks of rain moving in across the northwest of the UK, and some of those turning heavy in places by Tuesday morning itself. Quite a mild night with all the cloud around, but notice as we head into Tuesday, quite an unsettled day unfolding. Those outbreaks of rain towards the northwest, starting to slip their way southeastwards towards England and Wales as we head into the latter stages of Tuesday. One or two heavy bursts in places. The far south and southeast holding on to some sunshine and brighter skies, but with blustery showers packing across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and generally a cooler day than in recent days, peaking at 21 Celsius in the southeast.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M621 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound where someone's broken down between junctions 3 and 4 heading out of Leeds. There are queues from junction 2 at Elland Road. There's disruption to Merseyrail train services between Ormskirk and Liverpool Moorfields because of a shortage of staff. In Oxfordshire, the A40 is blocked eastbound by an accident at the junction with Elsfield Road in Oxford, causing queues towards the Headington roundabout. On the A1M in Hertfordshire, there's a lane closed northbound for emergency repairs between junction 6 and 7 between Welling Garden City and Stevenage, causing queues. On the M25 in Kent, there's a lane closed anti-clockwise where a van's broken down just off junction 1B at Dartford, with queues back beyond junction 2 for the A2. And there are delays of up to half an hour to trains between Bristol, Temple Meads and Taunton because of a points failure. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the Great British Summer Giveaway, and have we got a prize for you? There's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For a chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock. It's Monday, the 3rd of June. You are tuned into Breakfast with Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster. Thank you for your company.
Leading the news this morning, the Prince of Wales leading tributes to rugby league legend Rob Burrow following his death at the age of 41.
The PM's in the South East today. He's set to announce the Conservative Party manifesto and he's going to alter the Equality Act to protect women's spaces.
Keir Starmer will turn his focus to national security, committing to the nuclear deterrent triple lock.
We'll continue our series of D-Day veterans in the run-up to the 80th anniversary of the historic landings on Thursday. Today, Will Hollis speaks to 99-year-old Mervyn Kirsch.
And in the sport, Kylian Mbappe will sign for the European champions Real Madrid on July the 1st with a little signing-on bonus of £128 million. It's not bad, is it? It's a little bonus. In the French Open, players have complained about games finishing at about the same time as I get up in the morning. And in golf, Rob McIntyre wins the Canadian Open with his dad as his caddy.
Good morning. We saw a fine weekend for many with plenty of sunshine around, but we are seeing more in the way of cloud developing from the north as we head through the day today, even bringing some patchy rain in places. I'll have all the details later.
We're just getting a lot of reaction and tributes flowing in this morning for the former England Rugby League international Rob Burrow. He died at the age of 41. That was after a 5-year battle with motor neurone disease.
He was one of the sport's most successful players, having won 8 Super League titles and 2 Challenge Cups.
His family say he will, and I quote, continue to inspire us all every day. He raised millions of pounds for M&D research.
And in a personally signed message on social media, the Prince of Wales has paid tribute to Rob, describing him as both a legend and somebody with a huge heart. And I have to say, those are the kind of sentiments that we're getting this morning from you guys. Penny has got involved on your saying, so very sad to hear about the amazing Rob Burrows. Absolute legend. And Liam's got in touch. What a legend. I remember watching him 10 years ago at a match. Brilliant player. The things we go through and to see how strong he stayed is inspiring.
So young. Let's go to our reporter Anna Riley, who joins us this morning from Headingley Rugby Stadium in Leeds. Anna, over to you.
Yes, good morning to you both. This is the Leeds Rhino Stadium where Rob played many of his legendary games. You can see behind me that tributes have been laid for Rob Burrow. There's T-shirts, there's flowers, and there's many well-wishers coming here this morning to pay their respects. Rob was diagnosed with motor neuron disease at the age of 37, just 2 years after his career ended. He did 17 seasons with the club. He won 8 Super League titles, 2 Challenge Cup trophies and 3 World Club Challenges playing with Leeds Rhinos, whilst he also represented England internationally for Great Britain. After being diagnosed with M&D, he dedicated his life to raising awareness of the condition. It's a degenerative disease that ultimately meant that he lost his speech and he was confined to using a wheelchair, but along with his friend and former teammate Kevin Sinfield, they raised £20 million for M&D research. As part of that, they raised £6 million for a hospital in Seacroft, which construction will begin today. That was Rob Burrow's wishes, looking into the disease and how people with the condition can be helped. Leeds Rhinos released a statement last night that confirmed that Rob Burrow was surrounded by his family when he passed away. He leaves behind his wife and 3 young children. In the statement that Leeds Rhinos released, it said Rob inspired the entire country with his brave battle against motor neuron disease since his diagnosis in December 2019, and that he passed away at Pinderfields Hospital near his home, surrounded by his loving family after becoming ill earlier this week. They say that Burrow played his entire career with Leeds Rhinos and won every honour with the club as part of their golden generation. A hard-working and dedicated player, his fearless performances made him one of the most respected players in the Rhinos ranks. Fittingly, as a tribute to the incredible work done by Rob, the groundbreaking of the new Rob Burrow Centre for M&D at Seacroft Hospital on Monday will go ahead as planned at Rob's request. And they ask at this time that people respect the privacy of Rob's family as they grieve after this tragic news.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Thank you very much indeed. So short from being diagnosed to dying, 4 years.
Yeah, and just the change in his appearance and his bravery, it's inspirational, everything that he overcame, and we wish his family all the very best.
The time at 8:05, we turn to the election campaign now. The Prime Minister set to go to the southeast of the country today. What he's doing, he's pledging to amend the Equality Act to protect women's spaces and make clear that sex means biological sex.
Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer is expected to make a big announcement on national security, reaffirming Labour's commitment to a nuclear deterrent triple lock. And he says they will aim to increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP.
Let's get the views now of political editor for The Independent, David Maddox, who we're delighted to say joins us this morning. Good morning, David.
Morning, how are you?
I'm fine. Not as good as Labour. I mean, things going very well for them over the whole country, but particularly Scotland. We hear that they've got the SNP in trouble. The SNP having to re-gauge everything they're doing and almost relaunch.
Well, this was always inevitable, I'm afraid, ever since the kind of fall of Nicola Sturgeon, the collapse of Humza Yousaf's brief government. It's just not been the same for the SNP. I used to work for a Scottish newspaper, and there seemed to be a time when the SNP were completely untouchable and had it all their own way. Those days are well past, and really for Labour to kind of get a proper stronghold in government in Westminster again, they've got to regain Scotland, and they seem to be well on their way to doing that.
And obviously keen to try and move the dial on from Diane Abbott. And yet, unfortunately for them, I suppose, this story is the one that keeps on giving. She's saying that overgrown schoolboys have been briefing against her, that there have been no peerages offered, and even if there were, she wouldn't accept them. I mean, how strange is it, do you think, that we're looking at a Labour Party that faces power potentially in just a matter of weeks, and yet is as a home to people like Natalie Elphicke more than somebody like Diane Abbott, who's been in the party for so very many years, making history as the first female black MP?
It is extraordinary, actually, and it's upsetting a lot of people in the Labour Party. It's upsetting a lot of activists. I mean, clearly it's not damaging Labour in the polls at all at the moment, because most of these voters only have Labour to go to. They're not exactly going to go and vote Tory or even Lib Dem. But I think in kind of years to come, when the Starmer government, what seems inevitable, Starmer government is in trouble and questions are being asked about his character, as inevitably happens, people will look back on this period and will say, look at the treatment of Diane Abbott and, say, well, the signs were there. And, it's going to be a problem going forward, even if they have an easy victory.
Yeah,
but is it, David, there's more to this Diane Abbott business than meets the eye. The woman does not look well. She was getting a lot of attention. 2 people were escorting her down steps last week, holding her hand. She was shaking quite a lot, whatever. She says she's going to run, yet people close around her say, no, don't worry, she won't be running. It all seems rather strange.
It is, and there have been questions about her health for quite some time, actually. Taking that into account, the stress she's been under over the last few weeks, or last few months, really, since she was suspended from the party, or for writing something that appeared to be anti-Semitic. Let's be quite clear about that. Will certainly have taken its toll on her anyway. I mean, there had been suggestions that she was planning to retire. I don't know if that was true or not. That might have been yet another briefing against her. But it was, I mean, the thing is, with people like Diane Abbott, kind of politics run through their veins. And you see it with some of his politicians. They'd rather be carried out of the Commons than actually step back. And I think that's true of her.
David, what would you say if you were somebody like Isaac Levido? He's the big sort of election guru at the heart of the Tories campaign. And you had the Labour Party coming out quite literally, well, not literally, but figuratively, parking their tanks on your lawn, talking about defence, trying to make people trust them on national security. And you go, I know what we're going to do. We're going to stoke up culture wars and talk about gender identity and all of that. Is that an election-winning plot, do you think, for the Conservatives? Or is that literally just going to please one particular caucus who are already going to vote Conservative anyway?
I think it's the latter. I think it's all a little bit desperate, to be honest. Everything they've tried on the economy, on defence, they tried defence a few weeks ago, just before they called the election. None of it's landing. Nobody is listening. That's the problem. I mean, even Isaac Levido, for his company, is actually recruiting Labour people. So, maybe he can see the writing on the wall as well. And it's just a problem. People seem to have completely turned off the Conservative Party. I mean, it's interesting, the big speech today from Starmer. He's clearly trying to reassure the country on defence. A lot of his strategy is about reassurance that Labour's not going to do anything mad or bad, as in, was threatened with the Corbyn leadership. And, and the Conservatives just don't seem to be able to land a blow on him. If I were Isaac Levido, I'd probably be looking for the next job, to be honest.
Good man, David. We'll leave it there. David is the political editor at The Independent. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes.
Some other stories coming into the newsroom are these. Landmark research has found that more under 50s than ever are getting cancer. Rates amongst adults aged between 25 and 50 have increased by a quarter since the 1990s, cases now rising twice as fast than in the elderly. Experts are putting the rise down to changes in diet and the increase in ultra-processed foods.
The luxury cruise line Cunard is officially naming its new ship the Queen Anne in Liverpool later today. The ship will sail into Mersey with the naming ceremony to take place this afternoon, and the singer Andrea Bocelli will top the bill of performances with Emma and Matt Willis hosting the ceremony.
And Rupert Murdoch has married for the 5th time. He's 93 years of age. He tied the knot with retired Russian biologist Elena Zhukova at his Californian vineyard. Wedding photos show Mr. Murdoch in a black suit and yellow tie, beaming alongside his new 67-year-old wife, and we wish them the very best. Seagulls. We're not going to talk about seagulls now because many of you get in touch and you don't need me to tell you what sort of pests they are, and they're becoming more aggressive and more confident in what they're doing. But we're going to bring you to Bath to talk about the damage that they're doing there.
Well, yeah, when you think of Bath, you think of period dramas, beautiful Georgian houses and the Roman baths, or perhaps just a genteel way of life. Not so, it seems.
As you'll find out.
They're lurking on the rooftops, waiting to pounce. Hungry, destructive, dirty, and very loud. Writer and historian Tim Newark has had enough of his new neighbours.
But they're the very worst neighbours you can get. They wake us up at 4 a.m. in the morning and disturb our sleep. They rip open so-called gull-proof bags and strew that rubbish all over the pavement. They deposit vast amounts of disease-laden faeces on our streets, on our buildings, on our cars, everything.
But the new neighbours are of the feathered variety, seagulls, thousands of them coming in from the sea and claiming the streets of Bath for themselves.
If people acted like that, the council would do something about it. But the girls, they feel they can't touch them because of Natural England's very strict rules that stop us from even touching nests. So the council feels their hands are tied, but it's the residents who have to put up with this. And I don't see why we should have to live with girls. No one voted for that.
But they did vote for the council. In a statement, the council's cabinet member for neighbourhood services said, "We know that urban gulls can become a nuisance and even cause distress for people in some instances. However, we are limited in how much we can do to solve this because it is illegal to interfere with the birds or their nests. We urge residents and businesses who are experiencing problems with gulls to ensure they aren't making their roofs and gardens an attractive target by removing outdoor waste wherever possible." Impossible, though, on bin day. A census of the UK's main seafowl species says seagulls have seen a drop in their population since 2002. There's 100,000 fewer gulls than there were at the millennium. That's a fall of 41%, and that's why they're protected. But Tim Newark says this is wrong.
I would like Natural England to get sensible and see that it's not possible for residents, city centre residents, to live next to gulls, and we must be able to control their numbers. We must be able to get rid of their nests, and we can't have these incredibly strict rules that are stopping councils from acting for us.
Bath and East Somerset Council have applied to Natural England for a licence to destroy nests, but they're unlikely to succeed unless they can prove that people are being physically attacked. Until then, Bath's noisy neighbours are here to stay. Jeff Moody, GB News.
Well, your gull horror stories, very welcome. Get in touch with us this morning.
I was going to tell you my gull horror story.
Tell me your gull horror
Well, only
story.
to say that I lived in a flat that had backed over flat roofs, looked out over flat roofs, and all of the seagulls would lay their eggs in the spring. Then they would hatch, and then you would have these adolescent seagulls that couldn't yet fly, but had the vocals of an adult. So they made such a racket from 4 a.m. when their parents would go off to try and find their food. And
off to the nearest bin.
all these teenage seagulls, all sort of brown still, not quite in the beautiful white feather. They were the worst. And, you know, I quite happily would have got a catapult or something and out the window.
I had to move out of it was a sort of villa that we rented at a hotel in Portugal. And we moved into it, and then they moved us out the next day because the gulls had hatched in the chimney and things like that. And they were all protected.
Really?
Yeah.
You just have to have spikes everywhere so they can't land. And I think it's Cabot Circus in Bristol where they actually have a peregrine falcon that does the rounds.
Oh, right. OK. See if you can top those stories. Weather update. Hello, Marco. Good morning.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw plenty of fine weather across the bulk of the UK through the weekend, but things are turning more changeable during the week ahead. Most of us are seeing some rain at times, but equally still some warm sunshine to look forward to too at times. Back to the detail for this morning though, and outbreaks of rain affecting Northern Ireland, South West Scotland, moving south into parts of Northern England as we head through the day. Most of that fairly light and patchy, but the odd heavy burst in places. To the south of that, much brighter, particularly across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, but generally a cloudier day across the south of the UK than during the weekend. The best of the sunshine generally reserved for parts of Scotland, although towards the far north, quite a few blustery showers around. Still quite warm though when the sun does come through, temperatures into the low 20s at best. As we head into the latter stage of the day, into the early part of the evening, quite a bit of cloud across the south of the UK, generally the best of the brightness across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, and temperatures still doing quite well in that sunshine into the high teens, locally even still 20 degrees in one or two spots. Notice though across Northern England, parts of Northern Ireland, the cloud thick enough to give one or two spots of rain in places, and the best of the sunshine still reserved for parts of central Scotland, with blustery showers packing in there towards the Northern Isles. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period, those outbreaks of rain across the central slice of the UK continue to journey southwards but tend to break up, leaving a legacy of a fair bit of cloud across much of England and Wales into the overnight period. And although there'll be clear spells towards the north and northwest for a time, notice as we head towards Tuesday morning, further outbreaks of rain moving in across the northwest of the UK, and some of those turning heavy in places by Tuesday morning itself. Quite a mild night with all the cloud around, but notice as we head into Tuesday, quite an unsettled day unfolding. Those outbreaks of rain towards the northwest, starting to slip their way southeastwards towards England and Wales as we head into the latter stages of Tuesday. 1 or 2 heavy bursts in places. The far south and southeast holding on to some sunshine and brighter skies, but with blustery showers packing in across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and generally a cooler day than in recent days, peaking at 21 Celsius in the southeast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
So it is officially summer. Take my word for it. And we've got a brand new summer giveaway.
Yes, £15,000 in cash to make summer spectacular. Plus, we are giving away a brand new iPhone, AirPods and £500 to spend at the attraction of your choice. So that could be a theme park, a stately home or even a spa if you fancy a day out.
Well, it could be yours. That's the important thing. And here's how you could get it.
It's the Great British Summer Giveaway, and have we got a prize for you? There's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For a chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, still to come, we're going to be hearing the stories of our veterans ahead of the 80th anniversary of D-Day on Thursday. That's next.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, Welsh farmer Gareth Wyn-Jones is a first-language Welsh speaker and joins us now. Gareth, I mean, a lot of people will be thinking, hang on, this guy is a Welsh teacher. He speaks English. He knew what was on the parking ticket. He's just trying to make a point. He's being a prat, isn't he?
No, hey, come on, mate. I'm a first language Welsh. It's important that we watch after our language and, you know, that everything's bilingual. For us in Wales, you wouldn't go to France and expect your ticket to be in English, would you? You know, English is the most spoken language, but let's watch after these small languages. It's part of our cultural. So, you know, I take my hat off to the guy. Fair play to him for go out and to fight this. But what it's done is put it onto the mainstream media, and you're talking about it, even that you're calling him a that. You know, at least we're having a discussion about it, and it's putting the Welsh language in the forefront. And, so, you know, Gareth, speaking Welsh is important.
Yeah, so Gareth, this is a matter of principle. Is there a sense that the Welsh language is being eradicated in Wales? Is this something that the Welsh people need to rise up against?
Well, Welsh Government are trying to, you know, bring a lot more Welsh speaking into our daily life and teach people how to speak Welsh. Well, everything should be bilingual then. And I think, you know, it should start with government. So government should be putting pressure on these companies to make sure everything is bilingual. So I get behind this guy. Fair play to him. It's a good stance, and it's puts it in the public eye. Let's have everything in both languages, especially Welsh, because that's my first language. And I'm not
if I was Welsh, if I were Welsh, I think I would agree with you. I think I would agree with you, Gareth.
It depends if you come from Wrexham.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but actually it's about you.
And we won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear
all sides
as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
Well, the 80th anniversary of D-Day is on Thursday, and we're sharing the stories of the men and women who risked their lives for Britain's freedom.
Yes, and this morning we're talking about 99-year-old Mervyn Kirsch. He served during the landing on one of the 5 beaches, Gold Beach, 4 days after the main assault, and he volunteered for a reconnaissance mission after a party returned with only 1 survivor.
Will Hollis, for us, spoke with Mervyn at the Union Jack Club in London.
I didn't feel scared. I thought it was great adventure.
Mervyn Kirsch was a boy when the war began. By D-Day, he was trained and ready to fight after years waiting.
It was taking a long time. I suppose I was an agitator.
He remembers reality unfolding to the sound of thumping guns.
In the morning, I was about 5 o'clock, they woke me up to say we were going towards France now, and I could see the outline in the dawn. And I could hear couldn't see, but I could hear the shells, big shells going overhead both ways. Nobody was bothering to fire at me, which was quite good. Then I began to feel nervous, and I realised it's not just an adventure, it's actual World War.
Mervyn served in the Ordnance Regiment. His job was to get supplies like ammunition and vehicles onto the beach. When an advance party, including some of his friends, were destroyed, Mervyn stepped up.
The head of me went a reconnaissance unit. We were supposed to go on D+6. The reconnaissance unit was going D+2 to find a suitable site for 200 drivers and 1,000 vehicles, which we were going to stock, all kinds. They went across, but they didn't get across. They were torpedoed, the only boats torpedoed that day, and they were all blown to pieces. None of them were. Just the boss, my CO, Colonel Gore, survived. He was on deck and he got thrown into the sea. So he came back and asked the volunteers to take their place. And I was apparently the only one. I didn't realise I was the only one who volunteered.
Under the cover of darkness, he landed in Normandy.
So I was put on a boat that night, any boat, going across, and told to find a suitable site for vehicles and men. So I just crossed over and I landed, got to the top of the cliff, and just with a strange driver in a track vehicle, told him just to drive down one of the roads and see what we can find.
He returns to Normandy for the 80th anniversary. Will Hollis, GB News.
Still to come, Paul Coit will be here. Lots of talk, of course, about Rob Burrow, and we'll be speaking to the chief of the Motor Neurone Association about his legacy and all of the fundraising he did for the charity, because, of course, at the end of the day, it was M&D that took him away from us. All of that in a moment.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Oxfordshire, the A40 is blocked eastbound by an accident north of Oxford, causing queues towards the Headington roundabout. On the A1M in Hertfordshire, there's a lane closed northbound for emergency repairs between junctions 6 and 7 from Wellingham City towards Stevenage, causing roughly 3 miles of queues. On the M25 in Kent, the outside lane's closed anti-clockwise where a van's broken down just after junction 1B at Dartford, with queues towards there from junction 3 for the M20. delay on the M26 in Kent. There are westbound queues getting onto the M25 again today because of roadworks. Trains have been stopped between Bristol Temple Meads and Taunton, and between Bristol Temple Meads and Weston-super-Mare because of a points failure. And in Hampshire on the A303 there's a lane closed eastbound. Someone's broken down at Barton Stacey causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it? He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
One of the things we've been doing this morning is we've been remembering the legacy and life of Rob Burrow, the rugby league legend.
Yes, his heroic 5-year battle with motor neurone disease inspired him to raise millions of pounds to fund research into the condition.
OK, well, we've got Paul to talk about Rob as a sports guy, and we've been doing that all morning. We've also got the chief executive of the motor neurone disease, and that's Tanya Curry. Tanya, good morning. Oh, is Tanya there? Oh, she is there, right. Hello, Tanya. Hiya.
Hi. How
Hiya.
are you?
There you are with Paul. We just want to know, just really, do you think this disease or this condition in any way was associated with Rob playing the game?
We don't know, to be honest, Eamonn. There's a lot of work going on into research into this area. So we think there are a number of causes of M&D that could be genetic, environmental, lifestyle factors, but we also know people have questions about sport. So we're working hard to try and find if there are indeed any links, but we haven't got any conclusive evidence to say so at the moment.
And just tell us about the man, Rob Burrow, and what he has done for the condition in terms of raising awareness and raising much-needed funds into research, because, as you say, this is a disease we still know so little about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rob has been amazing. There are just no other words to describe him. He bore his diagnosis with such dignity, and he allowed every one of us into his life, into his home, shared his family world with us, and that's immense. It's meant so much to the M&D community, and he's actually brought M&D to the street, so people know what the condition is now. They know the devastation it can cause. So the profile of the disease and certainly the work that we're all doing has really escalated. We're just so grateful for all of that.
We know it was Rob, of course, and Doddy Weir has done a lot for you as well, hasn't he? Because he had this awful disease too. Also, Kevin Sinfield, who's worked obviously and is a great friend of Rob, raised a huge amount of money. He says even now he won't rest until a cure is found. Now, how possible is that? Is it just how long is a piece of string, or is there something, could there be light at the end of the tunnel of this?
Well, we have to believe there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are millions of pounds going into research into this disease on a worldwide scale. Our mission as a charity is to make sure that we never have to talk about M&D ever again. We need to eradicate the disease. But obviously we need funds, we need time, we need all the scientists to be working together on that international scale. So we're definitely moving in the right direction, definitely.
And thanks to Rob, you've moved a lot quicker in that right direction. The thing that amazed me, Tanya, though, was the speed of this disease. Just in 4 years of being diagnosed, then he's dead.
Oh, it's the cruelest of diseases. We see about 50% of people who are diagnosed with M&D actually die within 2 years of their diagnosis. And you see how people's lives change. Every aspect of their life changes with this diagnosis. So, you know, we are so sad for Rob and want to obviously send all our love to his family.
He's raised profile for you guys and the fantastic work that you do. We wish you all the best. Thank you for taking the time and speaking to us this morning, Tanya Curry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. We're going to talk about another Rob now.
Yes.
Rob McIntyre. Rob McIntyre's a golfer. This is a story to warm the cockles of your heart.
It is. I love Robert McIntyre. We've spoken about him before. Young Scottish golfer, loves playing shinty.
Yes.
Shinty, which is this crazy, with respect, crazy Scottish sport, which can be very dangerous, that he insists on playing. And although he's been told, listen, you're a professional golfer, it's probably not a good idea that you play shinty, he said, I'd rather give up golf than give up my shinty. Yeah, anyway, he was in the Ryder Cup. He's gone over and he's played in Canada, played in the... There he is. There's he celebrating with his dad.
Brilliant.
That's him on Robert's right-hand side, Doogie. Now, Doogie is the greenskeeper of their local course, and he's the man that's responsible for getting him involved at Glencrutton Golf Course up in Scotland. Anyway, he had no caddy, and he's thinking, well, who should I use?
Yeah.
I'll call my dad. So Dad comes over to the Canadian Open, carries the bag for Robert.
What a story.
Goes and wins the title. 1.3 million quid better off he is.
Wow.
And so I wonder if his dad gets his, like, 20% or whatever.
He will.
I hope so, and make it up 50%. But isn't that a great story?
Best decision ever.
It's fantastic, and he's a great fella, Rob McIntyre. I've got to try, because I keep making the call and say, oh, yeah, we'll try and get this, make it happen, but I'll work my socks off to try and get him on this week.
Isabel on Wednesday is going to Portsmouth as part of our D-Day commemorations.
Yeah.
And I was saying to you earlier, part of the homework you should do is watch all the films that have been made. By films, I mean feature films on D-Day. Now, Paul has got some info on.
If I can find, I was trying to make a list of firstly thinking about The Longest Day.
Yes.
Which was 1962.
John Wayne.
And also, not only The Longest Day, it's probably one of the longest films as well, because it was 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And how many can you remember the amount of stars in this? Because back in the day, then you would get these films where you would have just the greatest stars, and it was like when they did The Towering Inferno. Any famous person that they could possibly think of was in there. So John Wayne.
Yeah. Henry Fonda. Come on.
Robert Mitchum.
Was Kirk Douglas in it?
No, Kirk Douglas. He's the only one who wasn't.
All right.
Robert Mitchum, Richard Todd, Sean Connery, Robert Wagner was in it.
Robert Wagner's in it?
Yep.
Richard Todd. Now, he was a real-life paratrooper.
Yes, he was.
And I've met him. What an interesting man. Fantastic man. Gentleman. And he was in...
Dam Busters.
He was in Dam Busters.
He was in the Dam Busters. Yeah. Rod Steiger was in it. Kenneth Moore was in it as well.
What a great actor.
Christopher Biggins played Eisenhower, I believe, in that as well. Was that right? Was it him? It's a fantastic film, isn't it? You've got 3 hours to spare. If ever you're going to watch it, maybe this is the week to watch it.
That was the one, that film, they had these... See, the paratroopers landed, and they all landed over the place, and they had these clickers, these...
That's right. Yeah.
So you would... And then you would hear 2 clicks back, and that was saying, my mate's over there, so you would go to him.
Yeah.
But the Jerrys got hold of some of these clickers.
Right.
So the guys would go, and the Jerrys would go, and then they'd stand up and say, "Hey, Jim, I'm here."
Yeah, but the thing is, they clicked in a German accent, so they didn't recognise that. That was the thing. But it's
Very good.
It is a great film. You're right.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Clickers.
That's what it's all about.
Clickers.
OK, that's me told. Stay with us. Still to come, we're going to go through what's making the news this morning with Dawn Neeson and Christopher Biggins. And then just after 9 o'clock, Kemi Badenoch will be here.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
2,000 football banning orders have been issued to England fans ahead of this summer's Euro 2024 tournament in Germany. But authorities think that more than 300,000 England supporters could go to Germany, with Scotland fans, of course, also expected to travel in huge numbers. Well, I'm joined now by GB News' home and security editor, Mark White. Mark, welcome to the show. So you went to a press briefing this morning. As I understand, the authorities are gearing up to tackle what they see as a huge wave of potential hooliganism at the tournament. What's the latest?
Well, they're certainly not saying they're expecting hooliganism, and they are preparing for the worst, of course, if it happens, but hoping for the best. They say that in recent tournaments, England fans and, of course, Scotland fans have been pretty well behaved, but there will be very significant numbers attending that tournament, which gets underway in just over 5 weeks' time. That first match is Scotland taking on Germany in Munich, and of course just 2 days later it's England against Serbia near Dortmund. So 300,000 England fans alone they're expecting, because it's so accessible. I spoke earlier to Chief Constable Mark Roberts, who is the national lead for football policing. This is what he told me.
Positive, you know, England fans got a great record at recent tournaments. We know when any number of that people will travel, there's always potential for issues, but I think the German authorities are really well prepared. And I think one of the positives, particularly thinking about our fans, Germany's a beer drinking culture, so the police are well aware of dealing with people in the nighttime economy. They deal with plenty of big festivals, so I think we're going to a place that is well suited to work with us to keep everyone safe and make sure there's no issues.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning now to Dawn Neeson and Christopher Biggins. We're always delighted to see them, and they're here most Mondays. So they're going through the papers, and we offer our congratulations to 93-year-old Rupert Murdoch, who has got married for the how many time?
Why?
It's
the fifth time at the age of 93.
Why not?
His lucky bride is 67 years old. She's a former molecular biologist born in Moscow, Elena Zhukova. And she looks stunning in the wedding pictures. I mean, considering she's 67, she looks amazing for it.
I googled where the dress is from. It's Amelia Wickstead, favourite of the royals, and it looks it. I mean,
and favourite of yours by the sounds
Well,
of it
I've
as
never
well.
been lucky enough to wear Amelia Wickstead, but that is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
But this
dress.
is, yeah, I mean, fifth time lucky. Who knows? I mean, obviously we all remember the Jerry Hall one, which finished in 2022, and didn't he divorce her
by email or text
or something, or rather one of those romantic ways. And yeah, so this is They've been together a while now. She was born in the Soviet Union, and her daughter Daria, also known as Dasha, was married to Roman Abramovich of Chelsea. Remember that?
OK, so oligarchy going on there.
Yeah. She was her former husband was a billionaire. This one's a billionaire, and her.
We see the question is, Biggins, why at 93 would you bother?
I was just thinking, I mean, is he very lonely, perhaps? Does he have no friends? Does he not have anybody in his life that, you know...
Why would you need to get married? I mean, you could live with somebody, couldn't you?
Yeah, I know. And also, his history is he's had to pay all this huge amounts of money.
Could he consummate the marriage?
Stop it. We don't need to do this.
I think we do need to do it. I think it's the essential question. I mean, it's interesting. I could see how you can be with someone, but to marry them... it's interesting.
It is interesting.
I don't know if it's physically possible. I've no idea.
But the thing is, this is the question we all go, oh, no, we shouldn't talk about it. But this is the questions everyone's asking, isn't it? I mean, well, all right, Isabel's asking about the dress, but, I mean, we're...
I personally haven't thought once about his conjugals, and I don't want to ever again.
I think it's the first thing people think of.
Yes,
I would doubt it, unless he's having help.
OK. Well, when you guys are finished, let me know, and we'll move on.
Right, good.
No.
She's still in therapy over the first section where you went on about Uranus.
Christopher, as a gay man, Rebel Wilson, the comedian, actress, she's saying gay roles can be played by straight actors. What do you think about that?
I get so angry about this because acting is acting. She's absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, we can play anything as an actor. If you're a good enough actor, you can play anything. I sometimes play a woman. And I'm rather good at it.
And you've been a chandelier.
And I've been I mean, you know, I've been so many different things. And yet, you know, it really angers me. And
Have you ever played a straight man?
I hope so, yes. I played in Poldark. I was a sex-crazed vicar.
Oh, yes, you were.
You know, and I mean, it was wonderful. I mean, and he was the most hated man on television that year. And it was divine, of course. You know, I played quite a few straight men. But, you know, and I played gay people, too. I mean, as an actor, you can play anything, and she's absolutely right,
here's
Rebel.
a question, then. Could a white male actor play Othello?
Well, Laurence Olivier did.
No, but today, with today's standards.
No, you couldn't do it today.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think it's not a good thing. I think and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I do think that actors should have the opportunity to do whatever they want. Nowadays, of course, you get men playing Juliet. Or, you know, you get men playing...
Sorry, I don't know what you mean.
Well, in Romeo and Juliet...
You get a man playing that part.
You could get a man.
That's just stupid. That annoys me.
I mean, I went to see last week at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre a production of I forgot the play now.
That's Age. That's Age.
It's Age. It's the one with Sir Toby Belch in it. Twelfth Night.
Oh, Twelfth Night.
Twelfth Night, and Sir Toby Belch was played by a drag queen.
Okay.
I can see the interpretation.
Well, I think Aikuchik would have been a better drag queen, funnily enough. But anyway, you know, people want to find different ways of doing different things all the time. And that's fine. But don't preclude people like gay people only having to play gay parts.
Yeah. Interesting.
Can we talk about slugs, Dawn? This is a problem for me. We have our first ever veg patch, and in one evening, pretty much almost all of my lettuces were absolutely decimated. And apparently because we had the wettest, or the second wettest winter in over 100 years, and we've had this really mild and miserable summer so far, they are ruining
They are
the
on the
country.
rampage, rampaging slugs. They're doing it quite slowly, obviously, because it's slugs, but this is a story on the front page of the Daily Star and also, obviously, on page 4 of the Daily Star, and it's called, the headline is Slime Wave. Oh, I like that headline. It's clever.
I hate slugs.
Well, as you said, Isabel, we're facing invasion of slugs and snails due to damp weather. Recent downpours have provided the perfect conditions for them to breed. Grown up
150 we got one night off the veg patch. You have to go
150?
Yeah, I'm going to have to show you the videos. You have to go. We go out in cover of darkness and just pick them all off and then chuck them.
Chuck them where?
Well,
next doors.
Our neighbours are lovely. No, we've got a boundary onto the road and we just chuck them there.
What's the point? Because they're not going to come back.
No, it's quite far. It's quite far from the veg patch.
Alan Titchmarsh has a similar problem to you, and he throws them over the fence into the neighbour's garden.
I saw that, actually. Controversial. My mum's a little bit less humane and boils them with the kettle. Is that a
Boils
really
them?
terrible thing to say on the television?
It
Sorry,
is.
Mum.
The other,
I've also heard about salt.
The other, yes, salt. You can put salt.
Or beer.
But when you look at those, when you think of those things now, you're right. You just think, no, that's not right to watch a creature die.
No, I can't do this. We just chuck them over
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
So the car passing squishes them instead, but at least you are...
No, they don't actually make it onto the road. There's like a verge. Anyway.
Does she eat them when she's boiled them?
No, just make sure they're dead. Of course she doesn't.
Oh, I thought, now, you know, perhaps it's a new delicacy, you know, in your mother's area.
A slug-eating person.
A little bit of garlic.
Okay, yeah, I suppose it's a delicacy
snails in France.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, if you're interested, I can bring you a fresh supply.
Oh, thank you, Dad. It'd be very kind.
Part of this this election campaign that's going on at the moment is the Conservatives have promised to build. You see, and when I heard this yesterday, I nearly choked on this. This headline came out yesterday, and we're going to build 100 new GP clinics. And I'm thinking, you're going to. Why haven't you done it now? Why haven't you done it during your tenure of being in power?
This is. I'd actually quite like to be Keir Starmer at the moment, because everything, literally everything the Conservatives say, all he's got to say is, why haven't you done it for the last 14 years?
Yeah.
But this one in particular is really annoying. 100 GP clinics, revamp 150 more to cut down on the waiting list so we all get to see our GPs and get the NHS up and running smoothly. And it's like, you've had 14 years.
They
What's
have a
now?
terrible problem with GPs in attracting people to become GPs and retaining them as well. So there is a huge problem, particularly getting men to be GPs.
Yes, yeah.
Then women become pregnant
Yeah.
and then leave it. It's in disarray, and they obviously just don't treat it with the respect it deserves.
No, they don't. And this would free up, evidently, according to Rishi Sunak's plan, 20 million GP appointments in total. And once the scheme is fully scaled up, whatever that means, and this comes on the same day as the Royal College of Nursing declared a national emergency in the NHS, warning that patients are dying in hospital corridors, which they are.
Being treated in cupboards and...
Well,
relative
I just think,
recently.
I mean, if you're in government, you've just got to look at what governmental money is spent on. And somebody's got to make then some serious decisions and say, do we really need to be spending money on that? And then you put the money where it is needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we could tell them where the money's being wasted.
Certainly in the National Health Service.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, but as soon as you go down that line of saying, well, we need to restructure it in some way, everyone goes, oh, my God, you're talking about privatisation? No.
It's the national religion, sacred cow. You just can't touch it. And that's why it shouldn't be left to politicians who are only interested in the electoral cycle and the next election, rather than actually the well-being of our money. 50% of all of our taxes is spent on the NHS.
The awful thing is, I mean, it's terrible to see someone suffering and then say, well, you've got to pay for that. But they do have to pay for it. You know, I had a cold sore on my lip and somebody in the doctor's surgery said to me, oh, do you want a prescription for that? And for what, a 60p tube of whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to take some responsibility yourself and say, I'll look after that, I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some serious... what would you save money on? Let us know today if you're listening to radio or you're watching us online.
When I had my new knee put in 2 years ago, I had to go to have swimming. You know, they said that's a very good thing to do. And they said, we'll send an ambulance for you. And I said, what do you mean an ambulance?
Yeah.
They said, we'll send an ambulance so you can get there. And I said, but I can get there anyway. And they said, no. And an ambulance arrived. And that, to me, is a waste of money.
I'd turn the heating down. Don't shoot me for that saying. I know it sounds silly, but I am one of those people that goes into hospital in the middle of winter and I'm boiling hot.
Yes.
And I remember giving birth and being boiling hot and thinking, why is it so hot in here? What that must cost.
Yeah.
Even in summer.
Well, you've got the other situation. We're telling personal stories. My granddad, when he briefly needed to use a wheelchair, they gave him a new wheelchair. Perfect, no problem, thank you very much. My mum tried to take it back to the hospital and they wouldn't take it. It was a brand new wheelchair. And she said, what am I meant to do with it? And well, you know, just keep it. So Mum actually had to go in the middle of the night and drop the wheelchair off in Casualty and sneak out.
Why would they not take it back? You're right. I mean, I've had this as well with crutches and things. But why?
I don't know. maybe some contamination issue. I've got no
They can
idea,
clean
Eamonn.
things, for goodness sake. Biggins, tell us about living in a bubble.
Well, years ago, my dad was in the car business and sold cars, and we had every car possible. I mean, my first year of driving, I got through 11 cars because I used to go into the showroom and say, "Oh, I like that. Oh, that's a nice colour.
You weren't writing them off.
Exactly. But we had a bubble car, and they're on the way back, according to this paper today, and they're so fabulous. But I remember my mum and dad sitting in the front and me sitting in the back, and a bus came behind us. It was like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
It was huge compared to the bubble car.
Can you fit 4 people in a bubble car?
No, I think 3 is the maximum, I think. There was a little seat at the back for children.
So this is the new version?
This is the new
Looks
version.
exactly like the BMW one, the old one.
That's right.
It's not a 3-seater, is it? A 3-wheeler.
This is the micro lino. Looks like a bubble car. I think that's the name. But I think they're great, and I think they're wonderful to have, especially in London. You know, which is you need it. You could park it easily.
But that door looks. Why are you getting in and out by the steering wheel?
That was always used to be the thing. And
that was how a bubble car worked.
And there used to be 3-wheelers back in the day, if I remember.
Yes.
It does look like a 3-wheeler.
No, it doesn't look like a 3-wheeler. It's a 4-wheeler. You can see it's a 4-wheeler.
And also 20 miles an hour, and that is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. There would have to be an electric button, though. You'd have to now press a button and it would close the door, I would imagine. You couldn't be...
No, you're right. You're right. Yes, it has to have
when we were kids, we had a neighbour had one of those, and as little kids, you loved it. It was great. It's gone play in the bubble car, and he was really, really accepting of all his little kids. But it turned out he was the local...
Oh, no.
The local person you didn't want your children playing with.
Oh, it was a honey trap.
But it was a lovely bubble car.
Oh, dear, that's unfortunate. Well, on that lovely note, we say goodbye,
No, just a second. Before you go, your mother's just texted me to say she doesn't boil slugs.
She did, yes, sorry,
Just to check. Sorry, Mum. OK.
Here's the weather for slugs and everyone else.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw plenty of fine weather across the bulk of the UK through the weekend, but things are turning more changeable during the week ahead. Most of us are seeing some rain at times, but equally, still some warm sunshine to look forward to too at times. Back to the detail for this morning, though, and outbreaks of rain affecting Northern Ireland, south-west Scotland, moving south into parts of northern England as we head through the day. Most of that fairly light and patchy, but the odd heavy burst in places. To the south of that, much brighter, particularly across parts of Wales and the south-west of England, but generally a cloudier day across the south of the UK than during the weekend. The best of the sunshine generally reserved for parts of Scotland, although towards the far north, quite a few blustery showers around. Still quite warm, though, when the sun does come through, temperatures into the low 20s at best. As we head into the latter stage of the day, into the early part of the evening, quite a bit of cloud across the south of the UK, generally the best of the brightness across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, and temperatures still doing quite well in that sunshine into the high teens, locally even still 20 degrees in one or two spots. Notice how across northern England, parts of Northern Ireland, the cloud thick enough to give 1 or 2 spots of rain in places, and the best of the sunshine still reserved for parts of central Scotland, with blustery showers packing in there towards the Northern Isles. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period, those outbreaks of rain across the central slice of the UK continue to journey southwards, but tend to break up, leaving a legacy of a fair bit of cloud across much of England and Wales into the overnight period. And although there'll be clear spells towards the north and northwest for a time, notice as we head towards Tuesday morning, further outbreaks of rain moving in across the northwest of the UK, and some of those turning heavy in places by Tuesday morning itself. Quite a mild night with all the cloud around, but notice as we head into Tuesday, quite an unsettled day unfolding. Those outbreaks of rain towards the northwest starting to slip their way southeastwards towards England and Wales as we head into the latter stages of Tuesday. 1 or 2 heavy bursts in places. The far south and southeast holding on to some sunshine and brighter skies, but with blustery showers packing across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and generally a cooler day than in recent days, peaking at 21 Celsius in the southeast.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Oxfordshire, the A40 is blocked eastbound by an accident north of Oxford, causing queues towards the Headington roundabout. On the A1M in Hertfordshire, there's a lane closed northbound for emergency repairs between junctions 6 and 7 from Welwyn Garden City towards Stevenage, causing roughly 3 miles of queues. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues heading on to the M25 again today because of roadworks. On the M23 in Surrey, there are southbound queues after traffic was stopped because of a breakdown between junctions 8 and 9 from the M25 towards Gatwick Airport. In Hampshire, the A35 is closed each way along Lyndhurst Road at Ashurst after an accident causing queues. In Dorset Way in Poole is busy eastbound when there's an accident just before the Tower Park roundabout, and there are delays of up to half an hour to trains in Bristol Temple Meads and both Taunton and Weston-super-Mare after a points problem. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We've got summer sewn up with an incredible trio of treats, and you could win them. First, there's a fabulous £15,000 in tax-free cash to ensure this summer is special. What would you spend that on? Next, you'll also receive the latest iPhone 15 and a set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at your favourite UK attraction. Fun in the sun could be on us. For a chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 9 o'clock and it is Monday the 3rd of June. You're very welcome to breakfast.
Whatever you're doing, whatever you're watching or listening to, stay with us. We're here until 9:30.
Leading the show this morning, the Prince of Wales is paying tribute to the rugby league legend Rob Burrow following his death aged 41. This is after a 5-year battle with motor neurone disease.
On the campaign trail, the Prime Minister is in the southeast of England today. He's set to announce the Conservative manifesto will alter the Equality Act to protect women's spaces.
Today, Sir Keir Starmer will turn his focus to national security, committing to the nuclear deterrent triple lock.
Big in this half hour, we're going to continue our series of D-Day veterans in the run-up to the 80th anniversary of those historic landings, and that's going to be on Thursday. Today, we'll be talking to a 99-year-old veteran, Mervyn Kirsch.
Good morning. We saw a fine weekend for many with plenty of sunshine around, but we are seeing more in the way of cloud developing from the north as we head through the day today, even bringing some patchy rain in places. I'll have all the details later.
OK, so we are well into the campaign trail for the general election. The Prime Minister set to travel to the southeast of England today. What he's going to do is to pledge to amend the Equality Act. And if he amends that, he will do it with the view to protecting women's spaces and make clear that sex means biological sex. I'm more confused than ever, but yeah. So that's what the Prime Minister's doing. Keir Starmer, meanwhile...
Yes, well, he's expected to make a big announcement on national security, reaffirming Labour's commitment to the nuclear deterrent triple lock.
So what is the triple lock, the nuclear deterrent? You've either got it or you haven't got it.
And he's also going to increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP. Earlier, we spoke with the Shadow Armed Forces Minister, Luke Pollard.
Well, there's no doubt that Keir has changed the Labour Party. And if he's changed the Labour Party, he can change the country as well. Labour's committed to not only 2.5% of GDP being spent on defence, but supporting our nuclear deterrent with an unshakable commitment to NATO, our allies, and support for Ukraine.
OK, we put all of that together and we go to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who's, as I understand it, you're travelling with the Prime Minister today, Chris.
Morning, Eamonn. Morning, Isabel. That's right, we are. We're getting on board. We're waiting here in Westminster for the bus to arrive, and it'll pick us up. And we're off to the southeast of England. We'll hear from the PM today that they've got this commitment here to ensure that they will change the Equality Act so that someone's sex is defined at the point at which they were born. They're trying to clarify the issue of safe spaces. Tory MPs, when they were MPs before they candidates, have been telling us that some young girls have been afraid to go to the loo in schools where there are mixed-sex lavatories because boys are there and they find that difficult to deal with. So it's definitely, you might call it a culture war issue. It's an issue which matters a lot to parents and of course, those on the trans community find it very difficult to understand and concerned about this policy. But it looks to me like an effort to try and win reform voters. We saw from that poll, didn't we, the MRP poll from electoral calculus on Friday night, reform set to scoop up 12% of the votes and 0 MPs if that poll comes to pass. So I think it's an attempt here to go back to the base and shore up that support because they're so far behind the polls.
Yeah, so it will appeal to reform, possible reform voters. But Isabel and I were just saying we're not sure it would really gather people who are new to the Conservatives, are we?
I'm sure it's not going to necessarily appeal, as you say, to those sort of who are thinking about voting Labour, but it's interesting that you're identifying these as this core of people who could actually hand the keys to Labour by voting for reform. That would be Kemi Badenoch's fear, I suppose, in all of this, as well as the central principle that I'm sure she believes in as well.
Yeah, that's right, Isabel. I mean, I think it is an attempt here to go back to the base and try and win round those waverers who have not yet come back to the Tory party. The party has long said that there's maybe 25% of undecideds, and if they can get some of those back to the Tory party, they can start to close that gap. But it's still well over 20 points, and the forecasting at the moment is for a big win for Keir Starmer on July the 4th, and that's why I think they're still trying to shore up that base.
Christopher, we know that this is an issue that Labour have floundered on. Kemi Badenoch talking about how Sir Keir Starmer goes around in circles on this and in the past has appeared to struggle to define what a woman is, although he has subsequently changed his tune in all of this. But could Kemi Badenoch herself find herself getting in a bit of a tangle? I've just seen she's been on the airwaves this morning and being questioned about birth certificates specifically. Which version of birth certificates which have been legally approved where somebody has had a sex change, will they permit? And could somebody with a birth certificate that says, although they were born a man, they are now legally recognised a woman, could they still go to prison? And it seems to me that it's not entirely clear exactly what the paperwork will involve and which version of birth certificates will be required under this amendment to the law.
Yeah, I think she said there in that interview that she will try and make sure that those who have actual operations, maybe having a penis removed, there'll be in some cases where this changed law will not apply. But the broad brush idea is in public buildings, sex is assigned at birth, but it will allow some organisations to opt out from that if they want to. But they're trying to stop, I think, legal action against companies or authorities which try to ensure that they do reserve spaces for men and for women independently.
OK, Christopher, thanks very much indeed. Keep us posted. I know you're going to be busy with the Prime Minister all day. We look forward to hearing what happens on the campaign trail. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sophie Reaper, no idea what she's talking about, but she's available. Where is she? And Sophie, what are you talking about? Because no one's telling me.
Well, good morning to you, Eamonn. We're here in Bayeux in France. We're talking about the build-up to the D-Day anniversary. We're right in the heart of the Normandy coastline here in Bayeux, so perhaps I should have said bonjour for you this morning. Now, of course, the anniversary itself is taking place on Thursday of this week, 80 years since that historic D-Day where troops from the UK, but also from America, from Canada, all different places, landed on the beaches here in Normandy. Now, that anniversary is this Thursday, but it's not just a one-day celebration. It is taking place over a 2-week period from the 1st of June, so it's already begun, all the way through to the 16th of June. So all over this part of France, these brochures are being distributed to locals and to tourists alike, which outlines all of the different events that are going to be taking place, not just here in Bayeux, but across the Normandy coastline over the coming days. And it's really quite helpful. I don't know if you can see this. It's got a map there. Now, we're here in Bayeux, but all along where those 5 beaches were, so Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno and Sword Beach, those 5 beaches which were landed on D-Day 80 years ago. There's going to be celebrations and commemorations taking place across the coming weeks. Now, we arrived here in Bayeux yesterday, my cameraman and myself, and we spent the evening walking around, taking in the atmosphere. We've already heard voices from all over the place. Plenty of Brits have descended on Bayeux already, and I imagine that will continue to build up over the coming days. We've seen people in military garb, we've seen army vehicles. This is going to be quite the spectacle, and rightly so, because we are 80 years on now from D-Day, that incredibly important day, really significant in the course of World War II. Of course, it's widely regarded as the day that marks the beginning of the end. So people will be here, people heading to this part of France to not only celebrate, but to commemorate and show respect to both our veterans now, but those who fell on D-Day 80 years ago.
Yeah, and maybe the last year we will be commemorating, certainly on this sort of scale, because there's very few people left alive in relation to it all. But Sophie, thanks for painting us the picture of that, and I know we'll be crossing back and forward to you throughout the rest of the day, so thank you very much indeed for that.
Still to come, we're going to be speaking to the Business Secretary, Kemi Badenoch. We have all of that to come, plus plenty more before 9:30. See you in a moment.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
How does it work in your home, then, when you're discussing politics, especially with your young son, Nigel?
Well, I mean, we discuss politics rather than argue about it. Both of us are political professionals. We've been in the game a long time, so we understand that. So we're more keen on what is actually going on and how things are working out than clashing over opinions. Now, Claire is a Tory Brexiteer. I'm a Labour Remainer.
Do you think relationships like your own are going to become less and less common?
I think they are, and I think we can see that politics has become very divided, it's become very toxic, and we've lost that art of debating. I'm more than happy to speak to anybody on any subject to do with politics, because I think it's only healthy to listen to someone's opinion. You may not agree with it, you may think that they're ridiculous. However, I think it's really important that you hear those views, because if you only become encased in a bubble of your own opinion, you're never going to learn anything. And I think politics needs that. You need to be able to explore other sides of an argument. It also makes you better at arguing. Yeah. And Nigel and I constantly disagree on various bits and pieces, but you learn how to place your argument so much better because you know what the other side are thinking. Now, if we had that across the country and across the House of Commons, we could have so much better debate and so many better different opinions coming through, and it would be a lot healthier.
And polite debate, which always strikes me about you two. You disagree on most things when it comes to politics, but you do so with so much humour and so much respect for one another.
Well, we find politics fun, and so when we bring politics into the home, we want to have fun with it too.
Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm just standing by to talk to Kemi Badenoch very, very shortly. But before we do that, we're going to give you the possibility, the chance of winning £15,000 in cash.
Yes, not just that, though. A brand new iPhone, AirPods and £500 to spend at an attraction of your choice, a theme park, possibly a stately home, or even a spa day on us. Here's how.
Good day out.
Yeah.
It's the Great British Summer Giveaway, and have we got a prize for you? There's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction, so you can enjoy amazing days out this year. For a chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now we're joined by the Business Secretary and Minister for Women and Equalities, Kemi Badenoch. Good morning. Welcome to the programme. Thanks for joining us. You are announcing today changes to the Equality Act that was originally put together in 2010 by the Labour Party, but you think that there are some areas that need clarification as the whole issue has potentially been sort of toxified over recent years.
Yes, that's right. It has been toxified. There's a lot of confusion about what the law actually says because terminology is changing. So what we are doing is clarifying the original intention of the Act, which is that sex, the protected characteristic of sex in the Equality Act, refers to biological sex. And that will also help with those parts of the Equality Act which create exemptions for single-sex spaces.
Just to make this clear so people understand this, because I think people begin to lose what we're actually talking about. You're talking about whether you are born with a penis or not. Penis prominence, really. That's what we're talking about.
Well, if you want to put it that way, it's not quite how I would put it, Eamonn. But it is about your biological sex being what you were born as, being what is protected in the Act. And, you know, over the last couple of decades, people now talk about sex and gender. In law, those used to mean the same thing, but now when we talk about them, they mean different things. One is the biological sex, the other maybe what you choose to present as or how you identify. But the problem we're solving is for many organizations like rape crisis centers, prisons, for instance, where people may identify as a woman even though they're biologically male and they don't know what to do. And we are clarifying what public authorities need to do, what perhaps individual private institutions' rights are. A lot of them are worried about being sued even when they're doing the right thing. So this is a tidy up of law so that we can create a better space for this conversation, make it less toxic, less heat, more light, protect women and children, but also, more importantly, protect those trans people, those people with gender dysphoria who have had their issues used by many many others who've got nothing to do with them, but who are exploiting the law for other purposes.
And are there any potential grey areas that you can foresee or loopholes? And I'm not even necessarily talking about predators here exploiting the system, which I think we can all agree needs to be rooted out. But I'm talking about perhaps those people who have had quite severe surgery to remove genitalia. I'm talking about men here, and have had their birth certificate legally changed so that they are on their birth certificate described as a woman. Will those people be able to go into female-only spaces? And if not, how will you be able to... what will you do with them?
So those are people who have had sex reassignment surgery, very, very tiny number of people. That's different from the whole category of trans as it's described. It's even different from the characteristic of gender reassignment, where you don't even need to have had surgery. So that's a very, very small cohort. And we do believe that there will be systems in place to be able to look after that. Some of them may need something specific or particular for their needs. What we're really trying to clear up is those people who haven't done anything at all, who may just present as women but are still, or even just say they're women but are still biologically male. It's not going to be an easy issue. I know that there will still be some people who will be unhappy, but we're improving the situation. We can't make it perfect. There will always be things that where there's tension, but we're trying to manage this tension and make it easier for everyone.
The fact that only a small number of people have gone through that surgery, as you described, doesn't really mean it's not important, given that the amount of airtime this trans issue dominates and only 0.02% of people on the census identifying as trans. Sinead got in touch on our website a little bit earlier on in the programme saying, I don't understand how the government seriously thinks we care about this more than all the other policies they're failing to announce. Nothing on cost of living, nothing on housing, nothing on young people, bar forcing them to do national service. And there are some people who are saying this is just about culture wars, perhaps trying to get those reform votes to stop them from voting for Labour. But it's not actually about changing society or improving people's lives.
Well, obviously, I would disagree with that. It is about improving people's lives. And when I wrote an article today, I talked about a woman who was raped by a man wearing makeup who followed her into a women's toilet. To say that we shouldn't deal with those issues and we should just talk about the cost of living, I think is absolutely not right. The government can do 100 things at the same time. And just because we're talking about this doesn't mean we're not doing anything else. And we have put forward lots of announcements. We had announcements on the NHS. We've been talking about what we've been doing on cost of living for a long time now. I've been responsible for things like the minimum wage and living wage. We've increased that. There's a lot that we've been doing to tackle multiple issues. But it is quite wrong when we are looking at something that, yes, it is niche, but when we're looking at it to say you shouldn't be doing this at all, it's just culture wars. That's how people get silenced. You get being accused of fighting culture wars, of being a bigot, of being transphobic. We want all of that to stop. People should be able to do the right thing without fear of abuse, and we're making the space for that to happen.
Just talk me through the timing of this. A lot of people will look at you, Kemi, and what you're talking about today, and they'll say, look, this is hardly new. And why haven't you done something about it? Or why hasn't the Conservative government done something about this before?
Oh, well, we've done a lot already. You know, we've put out guidance for schools. We're fixing the sex education curriculum. We've made announcements about single-sex spaces, mixed-sex wards. But the biggest reason why it's taken this long is we had to spend a lot of time fighting the SNP Scottish government in Scotland, who are going to change the law and mess it up for the whole of the UK. So the other part of this announcement is that we're also stopping devolved governments from being able to change the law. This will become a reserved matter. Equality should be a fully reserved matter, and you shouldn't have different things applying in England or Scotland.
Very quickly, because I do know that you have to go, but I want to ask you, Nigel Farage has been making lots of headlines over the weekend, been out on the campaign trail with Richard Tice, much probably to his frustration, dominating those headlines, and he's been talking about possibly a bit of a Conservative Party takeover, and you'll know lots of people debate whether or not you might be the leader of a future Conservative Party at some point, perhaps the not too distant future. Could you work with Nigel Farage, and would you welcome him into the party?
Nigel Farage is a very interesting character. He's been very influential, of course, but he has stood against the Conservative Party multiple times, and he has said that his aim is to destroy the Conservative Party. So why would you welcome someone into your organisation when they say they want to destroy it?
Well, he's not welcome, but could you work with him?
I will work with anyone who wants to help deliver a Conservative agenda. I've worked with Labour MPs on this issue of sex and gender, for example. I've worked with SNP MPs who disagreed with their government in Scotland. So I'm open to working with everybody. What I'm not open to is having people who are not Conservatives try and join the Conservative Party so they can destroy it.
Okay.
Kemi Badenoch, well put. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good day, and thank you for spending some time with us. Thank you.
Coming up at 9:30, Britain's Newsroom. Thank you, Kemi Badenoch. Is Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner, but also listening in to all of that. Interesting.
How long have they had to come out and tell us this stuff? Why now? Why suddenly now have an opinion on?
This is what I've been saying.
Because there's an election. The public are not stupid. We understand they could have been having this conversation 2, 5, 10 years ago. Suddenly
but you
now.
see, there's the woman that got in touch with you, you were talking about, she was saying nothing about the cost of living, nothing about housing, which I think housing's a real issue that no one's talking about. So you have Sunak coming out with his ice cream cones yesterday, that gets a picture and whatever, and Starmer just looking stupid the way he does all the time.
And what's the other big thing? What about social care?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I mean, that's the
the story today about these care workers, these foreign care workers, I
mean, it's appalling. I mean, no party yet. I mean, maybe...
Nobody's budgeted for it.
Not a word has been said about it, which is... it's appalling. It's one of the biggest issues facing all of us. We're all getting older, living longer, and there's no one to look after us.
The elderly and children. What are you going to do for those? Because we know what Labour's going to do for children. There's going to be lots of kids who've got a lovely, settled private school life who are going to have to leave that system. Nobody really cares about kids, what that's going to mean for those
And Yvette Cooper, I have to say, on Camilla Tominey yesterday, was appalling. She was asked 4 times, where are these minimum 40,000 kids who are going to go into the state sector? Which schools are they going in? And they bang on about the falling birth rate. That doesn't help if you're 14 and your private school closes.
It won't help in January, when potentially 40,000 minimum, 155,000.
Can't afford to pay the VAT.
You know, I also believe that if you don't fill in the potholes and you don't take care of the graffiti and you don't lift the rubbish off the streets, because we're just filthy, the whole country is filthy, and it's bad for morale, it's bad for the way people think about things, and the public always just think there's more money, there's more. Why should I spend my money? The government should spend, the government should spend, and we should get a real awakening about that and just say...
There was a piece of one on the Sunday, somebody drove 200 miles in France and didn't see a pothole. I don't think you could drive 200 yards in some of our roads and not see a pothole.
Well,
more like craters.
We are looking forward to your programme at 9:30, as always, coming up very shortly in a moment with Bev and Andrew. Thanks very much indeed. And I love the colour coordination that's going on. Was this deliberate or...
No.
There's a story behind it. We'll have to wait till 9:30 to find out.
OK, look forward to it. That's it from us. We'll be back tomorrow. Up next, Bev and Andrew.
Have a good day.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw plenty of fine weather across the bulk of the UK through the weekend, but things are turning more changeable during the week ahead. Most of us are seeing some rain at times, but equally still some warm sunshine to look forward to too at times. Back to the detail for this morning though, and outbreaks of rain affecting Northern Ireland, South West Scotland, moving south into parts of Northern England as we head through the day. Most of that fairly light and patchy, but the odd heavy burst in places. To the south of that, much brighter, particularly across parts of Wales and the southwest of England, but generally a cloudier day across the south of the UK than during the weekend. The best of the sunshine generally reserved for parts of Scotland, although towards the far north,